Welcome to a special edition of the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. It is Draft Night. Thursday is here, the first round of the NFL Draft. I'm your host, Femi Abebefe, our producer, Elliot Bowman, with us on the ones and twos as always, and I am joined by my buddy Michael Lombardi, former NFL front office executive. You guys know that by now. Michael's been plenty of draft rooms. And we are joined by our buddy Tim Murray, host of VSiN Primetime, also a VSiN College Football Betting podcast. You have been watching these players all throughout their college football careers. We're going to get perspectives from the NFL side, the college side, the whole thing as we dabble through these 3 hours here. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Gentlemen, what are you guys most excited about here as we're about 20 minutes or so from hearing the Bears announce their first overall pick?
Well, I think obviously the intrigue of this whole draft has been the quarterbacks. Where are they going to go? Are they going to be 4 in the first round? Are they going to be 5? And as we get closer to this, it seems like there is a prevailing factor from the people I talk to in the league in terms of the teams that there could be 6 picked by the time the Las Vegas Raiders get on the clock at 13.
Wow.
And I know that sounds hard to believe for a lot of people.
Me.
But I know Tim Murray. I know that, but that's all right.
We're off and running now.
I just want to preface this. Michael has sources. I'm just a guy who watches quarterbacks and listens to everything out there.
I watch them too, and I don't agree there should be 6.
Right.
I agree.
I think we agree there.
I agree. Look, I'm not advocating taking any of these guys in the first round. I would have traded for Sam Howell before I would have picked any of these guys. However, that being said, I think there's a lot of love. And what I learned today when I went after our show, the Vikings have, everybody puts out who they love, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the Vikings have quietly worked out Bo Nix with their entire organization present. And Bo Nix, there's a lot to like. If you look at Bo Nix's numbers at Oregon and you look at his numbers compared to Will Levis at Kentucky, it's not even close. The guy's a way better player. And Will Levis went 33, and there was a fight to get him at 33. So I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm just saying I think that's the case. And I think Michael Penix has been undergraded all year. The guy took a team to a national championship. He throws the ball really well on the third level. He doesn't play to his 4.6 speed, I grant you that. But Jaden Daniels doesn't make a second play when he runs around. He just takes off and runs. He gained 1,000 yards, and he doesn't throw the ball inside the numbers. So there's always a little bit that you have to kind of go back and forth on. And I think ultimately, it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Well, I think the thing that interests me the most is what do the Chargers do at 5? If it does go 1, 2, 3, like many of us anticipate it to be, Caleb Williams going to the Bears, Jaden Daniels going to Washington, and Drake Maye, which has kind of been the latest push here for New England. If it holds chalk, Arizona's believe they'll listen, but probably going to stand pat at 4 and take Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe Malik Nabers, but more than likely Marvin Harrison Jr. And then the Chargers come up at 5. And does Minnesota feel the need with 2 first-round picks to go from 11 up to 5? Probably the asking price, Michael, and you could speak more to this than I, would be both of those first-round picks, the one they acquired from the Houston Texans and then the one that they have at 11. If no one wants to go up and they don't meet their asking price, the Chargers are sitting there, a new regime, Femi, with Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman. They've had success before. What do they do if they stay at 5? I think that's really fascinating to me. Do they go Joe Alt? Do they go JC Latham, who's been the flavor of the last 2 days and personally would be a little all right for me from a financial standpoint? Or do they go a wide receiver, Malik Nabers?
They're not taking a wide receiver.
I agree. I think they go offensive lineman if they stay.
Jim Harbaugh couldn't have been any clearer about that. He understands that they're going to take an offensive lineman there, and it's going to be JC Latham from what we're told. But I think you're right. Where the intrigue of the draft happens is if Arizona. So if this thing goes off, Williams Daniels May, that puts J.J. McCarthy in play. Would the Giants take him at 6? Do they feel the need to move to Arizona? Would the Vikings move up to get McCarthy? Those are all the things that come into play. And I think that's where Arizona, who will trade down? I mean, Arizona will trade. I mean, I think Arizona's in a position where they need so much. They need
even
more
with
picks.
6 in the first 90, Michael?
Well, I mean, they need – have you looked at that depth chart?
I
Have you looked at that depth chart?
My question to this, Michael, and I wanted to speak to you about this because they need blue-chip players, right?
Right.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is a blue-chip player.
But so is Nabers.
True. So I guess at 6, they would be intrigued maybe if the Giants one come up. Would they want to go to 11 with Minnesota, where in theory...
They could use an offensive lineman if they went to 11.
That's true.
I mean, they could use anything. I mean, they can't get carried away with just one position because I think it's the same thing with the Chargers. The Chargers have the lowest payroll on wide receivers in the National Football League, right? Other than the Green Bay Packers, who have a good receiving core. But the Chargers are going to build the team the right way. They're going to build the team through the offensive and defensive lines. I think that's going to be the case. I think the other team that's interesting in the top 10 are the Tennessee Titans. Everybody has them taking an offensive lineman, which they need desperately. A lot of people believe they'll take a wide receiver because Brian Callahan, their new head coach, believes that you build the team outside in like he did at Cincinnati when they took Chase over Penny Sewell. So you go there. I think Atlanta's locked in on Byron Murphy. I think that's pretty well locked in. Chicago, I love how Caleb Williams has already decided to tell him who to pick. Didn't take him long to do that.
Give me Rome Odunze.
No, he wants an offensive lineman.
I thought they were hanging out together.
He's already watched the Bears' offensive line and said, "Look, I think you need an." I mean, he hasn't been on the job one day and he's already the GM.
Maybe he got the equity. Maybe he's got some
maybe
ownership.
He did,
stake.
But he is going to be one headache. I mean, he is going to be a headache, But, I mean, he is a trophy wife, so you're going to put up with a headache, I guess.
He is the presumptive number 1 overall pick over at DraftKings. Minus 20,000 are the odds for Caleb Williams. We've known this for quite some time. He was going to be the first overall pick. But I do want to get back to the trades in that scenario because that's what I'm most fascinated about with this draft. We went on VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel before we got our show underway, and I'm a little bit skeptical about all these trades that people think are going to happen. DraftKings has 6.5 for the draft day trades for tonight. I think we get fewer trades than that. I think teams are going to have to stick and pick because it sounds like everyone's open for business. Well, do teams actually want to move up? Or are they moving away from these teams? How is this going to shake out?
But there's two different elements, right? The trade chart applies once you get past 10. The trade chart doesn't apply in the top 5. The top 5 is all about supply and demand.
Yep.
So if there's a quarterback up there, you can ask for more. I mean, Monty can't ask for, he can ask for whatever he wants at 4 because he's got competition for the pick. But once you get to 10 and say you're at 12 or 13 and the Eagles want to come up to get Mitchell the corner or something like that, then it's based on the chart. Then it's pretty much based on the chart value. I think that's where the trades come in. And then I think where you have to be really careful is in that bottom of once these linemen start to go, if you don't get a lineman, you may have to come back and get one. Washington may have to come back and get a lineman. They got a bunch of picks to do it. So, Philadelphia has all these picks on their team. They're not all going to make their team. And so if you can make a deal to get away from it, and then there's going to be a point in the draft where there's no defensive players left. And if you want to pick a defensive player, you're better off going in the second round.
Yeah, and I think, earlier today we saw the report from Diana Rossini that the Rams are interested to get into the top 10 to get a pass catcher. We saw Jacksonville's reportedly interested to get into the top 10 to get a pass catcher. So I think 8, 9... probably not 10, but maybe the Bears, at 9. Do they look to trade back? It's going to be really fascinating. I agree with you guys. I think the top, unless the Giants make that move up to 4, I think it's pretty quiet from a trade front. I think where it gets a little wacky is maybe 8 or 9. I do wonder, Michael, because ultimately it's the GM and the front office making the decision, but I'm curious your thoughts on Raheem Morris is now the head coach of Atlanta. Sean McVay is there in L.A., Sean McVay has not had a first-round pick since he's been the head coach there. He's like when I give my son $5 to what can I buy, right? So he wants to get up. He wants to get Brock Bowers. He wants to get one of these wide receivers. Does that relationship help, or does it not really matter since it's all GMs?
It's all. No, it doesn't. It helps in terms of the deal, but it doesn't help in terms of making the deal. Right. It helps in communication. Look, this is Bowers. This isn't a receiver. He's got Puka and he's got Cooper Kupp, the third highest paid receiver in football. This isn't coming up to get the third receiver. This is all coming up to get Bowers to tight end, which is something that I think he wants and needs on his team, and that fits what he wants to do. It goes back to it. It's not a quarterback. And look, the Jets have been rumored to take Bowers at 10. I don't know how they can, especially considering that they have Tyron Smith as their left tackle. I don't see how that can happen, but they need an offensive lineman, so we'll see. I mean, look, this thing is going to take shape. We know the picks are very secretive at this point. Nobody wants to give out the pick, and the NFL has been very clear about not giving out the pick.
I'm looking at the broadcast right now, the feed, and they got all of Detroit Lions royalty.
Whoa. Hold on, Femi. We had Detroit royalty started off because Marshall Mathers was in the house.
Who's the real shady? Please stand up. He's out there. You got Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's got a nice suit. He just got paid. Aiden Hutchinson's out there. Big night for Detroit. I mean, we talked about this on the GM Shuffle earlier this week about how special the draft has become and how these cities embrace it. I mean, that atmosphere in Detroit looks just unbelievable.
I don't think people understand what a great football town Detroit is. I mean, pro football town. I mean, the Lions have a historic history. They're historic. The uniforms, the element. I mean, Buddy Parker started the nickel defense in Detroit. He started the 2-minute defense in it. I mean, this goes back a long time to the old league when they were doing it. And I think there's great fans there. They've just been deprived. I mean, they've been deprived of a winner for such a long, long time that this is going to be a remarkable thing for them. And the high school football in Michigan's great. The college football in Michigan's great. This is a great sports town. It really is. And I think it's going to be wonderful for them to see all this and get their team on the clock. Nobody knows what the Lions are going to do. There's a great Barry Sanders from Wichita, Kansas.
I can tell you one thing. Lions are making a pick tonight.
Can you imagine?
They ain't trading out.
We're trading out the second round. Fans like, what the heck's going on?
They're making a pick tonight.
I mean, that would be rich if they traded out of there. There's reports that they could trade up. Who knows what happens? A lot of teams might be looking to trade up here, but we're going to find out. Lying season's about to come to an end here, and it's always a fun season every single year, but it's about to come to an end. We're actually going to figure out who is going to pick who and where these players are going to go. I'm curious to see what happens at 4. Obviously, that's kind of the pivot point we sit here right now. If you take a look at the betting markets, it appears that we will have Williams, we'll have Daniels, and we'll have May go 1, 2, 3. Then Arizona sitting there at 4. We know they want to move down, but do they find a partner or do they have to stick and pick? Those are the fascinating questions that we will try to answer on the other side. The draft is moments away. We're rolling along here on this special GM Shuffle NFL Draft Night here on the DraftKings Network.
If you didn't catch Follow the Money, here's what you missed.
You know, it's crazy how things have turned, specifically in this Suns T-Wolves series. If you go back to the final Sunday of the regular season, what is it now, a week and a half ago? Suns went to Minnesota, the 1 seed was on the line, and they barbecued the Wolves in Minneapolis.
And talked trash.
Oh, the whole time. And they destroyed them the entire game. Wolves were never really even in that. Well, now 2 games deep into this best-of-7 series, the Wolves are up 2-0, and they have been easily the better side here. This, on paper, I'm not going to call it over with because the Suns can go back and win the next 2 games at home. But the way this is flipped since that final game of the regular season, this looks like a total mismatch when you're watching the games.
Well, it's the number 1 defense in the league for a reason, and they are suffocating Phoenix, and the job they're doing defensively is A+.
Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Heading into 2024, the Big 12 is going to have a lot of new faces, and one of those newbies is the favorite to win the conference. I'm Tim Murray from VSiN, the sports betting network. No, I'm not talking about Coach Prime's Colorado Buffaloes. Utah is the favorite to win the Big 12 at plus 350. Kyle Whittingham entering year number 20 as the head coach of the Utes, 8-5 just a year ago. And Cam Rising, who missed all of last year due to a knee injury, he is back for another season in Salt Lake. Kansas State, they sit at plus 350. Chris Kleiman's squad was 9-4 just last season. They lost Will Howard to Ohio State, but a lot of excitement regarding Avery Johnson, who got the start in their bowl game against NC State. Kansas was able to keep Lance Leipold, and they are 7-1 to win it all. And Arizona, their new head coach Brent Brennan, they're 8-1.
For more, head to VSiN.com.
The time of unreliable injury reports and rest days are over. The playoffs are here, and it's the best time to bet the NBA. Throughout the NBA playoffs, VSiN has daily best bets, analytics reports, and series previews all the way through the NBA Finals. You can also watch our 24/7 video stream, access our betting splits, and get picks sent to your inbox every morning so you can get ahead of any late line movement. To get access to everything VSiN has to offer for the NBA playoffs, become a VSiN Pro subscriber at VSiN.com/pro.
Coming up Friday on Follow the Money, we recap first round of the NFL Draft and look ahead to Friday's draft. Matt Humans with his mock and what transpired. Michael Lombardi recaps everything in hockey and NBA playoffs with Jonathan Davis and Aaron Rennie. Follow the Money weekday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're all about giving our players new and exciting ways to get in on the action. With my stat sheet, you can check out your play history and performance over time to make sure you're always playing within your means. Because when it comes to betting, it's more fun when it's for fun. The crown is yours.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Welcome back. This is the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. We're hanging out with you guys on the DraftKings Network and on VSiN. You can check us out. Just go to DraftKings Network, wherever you get your browser, your Google Chrome browser, or whatever one you use. VSiN, of course, it's on the YouTube. They'll be streamed on the YouTube page as well.
YouTube.com/VSiN Live for free.
There you go. We'll be hanging out from 8 to 11 Eastern time. Tim will be with us from 8 to 10 Eastern. Matt Humans will be joining us at the last hour, 10 to 11 Eastern time there for the final hour. So it'll be a whole lot of fun that we have going on here on this draft as the Bears are officially on the clock here. The draft is underway. We got 6 minutes left until the Bears can make the pick.
Anticipation, guys. What are they going to do?
Ryan Poles is talking to somebody, Michael. Who's he talking to?
You know,
Who's he talking
this
to?
always drove me crazy. Like, we know you're going to make the pick. Do you really need all those people in the room? I mean, seriously, do you need all those people in the room?
Well, they do have pick 9.
I mean, like,
who are those people, Michael? Walk
they're
us
all
through who
everybody
those
that
people
wants to get in the camera. You know, there's Eberflus smiling, probably worried. He already wants to tackle. You know, here we go. Hey, Caleb, welcome. You're a Chicago Bear. Well, I've known that for a long time now. Great to have you. They're going to turn the pick in.
Caleb, you ready to go to work?
I think Caleb. Let's go back to the Bears here. Do I think the Bears can become the NFC North winner like most people? When C.J. Stroud was able to do for the Houston Texans, Caleb Williams is well ahead of C.J. Stroud as a professional player to come through the league. However, is the Bears going to be good enough? I don't think this pick is going to be as instrumental in terms of the Bears' future in terms of getting to the playoffs. I think the next pick is. I think if they can get a defensive lineman that can really help to go along with Montez Sweat, especially if they can get Murphy, if he makes it to 9. I think then all of a sudden the Bears and Eberflus's team is. Now, everybody wants them to pick a wide receiver, naturally, but of course nobody's looked at their depth chart and said, well, they're paying DJ Moore over $20 million. They're paying Keenan Allen over $20 million. Like, that's a lot of money to have in the receiving group. So I think, to me, they got to make this pick stick with a defensive lineman. And that's like, really, you're almost like you're playing pool here if you're the Bears. You know you're making the shot with Caleb. Now, it's the next shot you got to make, and where do you put the cue ball? And I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and on my mock, the way I kind of saw it all breaking down, obviously trades could mess this up, and we saw a report that Chicago could potentially move out of 9. But if they do stick and pick, my favorite phrase, I agree. I think Byron Murphy, you saw some real smoke regarding him. He got a lot of love going up. The odds for the first defensive player selected. We talked about it last Sunday when I jumped on with you guys, and he was 10-1. Yeah. And I thought that was worth a flyer at the time, and those odds have shrunk quite considerably, especially if Atlanta doesn't go Byron Murphy at 8, which you think could happen.
Yeah.
Or often mocked was Dallas Turner. I'm not buying that. There's some questions about Dallas Turner and the medicals. And if they potentially trade out, I think Byron Murphy at 9 could be a really good pick for them.
If they can get it to 9, he's a great pick for Atlanta at 8. I think here's what's happened with Byron Murphy, okay? Byron Murphy's been a hot guy in the league. Every personnel guy, every scout, they've all liked him. Except that all the media, the mock people, have had him. If you read what they write about him, they write him as a great player. They write him, but they think they're going to get him at 15. It's like, you're not going to get a great 3 technique at 15. That just typically doesn't happen. The reason Aaron Donald went later is because he was 6 feet tall, and that's the only reason. I mean, the way he played was like unbelievable. So, we all say the guy's moving up the board. He never's been moving. He's been in the top player in the league by everybody that I've talked to since the drafts this season started. And the narrative by the mockers have created this sensation that Dallas, nobody believes Dallas Turner is the number 1 defensive player.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that.
It's like the Alabama corners. Like, that's another narrative that's completely out of whack.
Yeah, with Arnold and McKinstry, those guys right now, as the commissioner's about to make the pick here for Caleb Williams, or announce the pick at least for Caleb Williams to kick off this NFL draft at 1. But you brought up the point, though, about the Falcons at 8, because Laiatu Latu is now the favorite to go 8th overall. That he's now surpassed Dallas Turner, and then Byron Murphy for 9 is just behind Rome Odunze at plus 150. Murphy's plus 175. So it feels like it's going to be some sort of variation of Latu, Murphy, that either goes 8 or 9, or maybe one of them goes to the Bears or the Falcons.
Well, and I will note that I believe DraftKings was around 30-1. There were other shops at around 50-1. I think there's real smoke behind this Brock Bowers in a trade scenario. And once again, when you're betting into these markets, right, you're not betting into who's going to draft them. You're betting into what is going to be the pick at 8. So I wouldn't get too cute. That's why my bets on Byron Murphy were all top 10, top defensive player, not exactly where he's going to go. By the way, Caleb Williams, officially official. He is the Chicago Bears. He gives the old
be careful.
bear
The
hug.
commissioner had back surgery, so you can't hug him too hard.
Schefter reported that. I was like, wow. It's a medical red flag for the commission.
That's one of 5,000 hugs we're getting today. At least in the NFL, we don't have to change hats, right? I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing in the NBA draft. We got to change the hat. Oh no, he's really not here. He's on this other team. Get the new hat.
Don't get me started on the trades in the NBA. They're so confusing. They're reported like 10 an hour beforehand.
In fairness to Caleb Williams, though, he's right. They need a right tackle, and so if they did pick. They took Wright last year from Tennessee in the first round. That helped. They do need a right tackle. That would be the one area offensively that they need to address. Defensively, they do need a 3 technique, and they need another outside rusher. And I think those things come together. And the reason I don't think the Bears can take that escalation up to go over their win total, Femi and Tim, is I think the division is really good. I think it's really good. I think Green Bay is going to be good.
Yep.
I think Green Bay is going to be really good in spite of what Big Daddy might say.
He has them regressing, of course.
Yeah, of course he has them. Well,
we got inside. I'm not. Who's Big Daddy?
Big Daddy is my cousin Vince. We talk about on the podcast.
I love the Packers. I think,
he is a Packer expert. He's also a New York Knicks expert. He can handle the draft, but he also handles nails. He's a carpenter by trade.
Expert on politics.
And he handles politics brilliantly. Running the Republican Club over in Summers Point. Trying to get them to lower the gas prices in California. And let's get back to the story here.
Yeah.
And so the Green Bay, they're really good. And Minnesota has had a good offseason. Yep. And so if they get any kind of production out of Sam Darnold, no matter who they take at quarterback, to go along with what they've done offensively, assuming Justin Jefferson will get signed. I mean, we just saw today A.J. Brown signed a huge contract. This $30 million threshold for wide receivers is breaking down. So expect CeeDee Lamb to get done, expect Jefferson to get done, because they've broken through the $30 million per year. Now, we got to look at the deal, but look, this is a good team. I mean, this is a good offensive team what the Bears have. And I think if they add a defensive player and he comes in and plays well, which I believe he will, because he's really a talented player. It isn't about whether he's going to play well. It's going to be whether he connects to his teammates well.
Well, I want to circle back to that, the evaluation of Williams, a player, because it feels like we haven't talked a lot about it because we've already known that he's going to go to the Chicago Bears. You mentioned that he is further along than C.J. Stroud to play professional quarterback in the NFL. I guess, what is the ceiling for Williams for the Chicago Bears in year one and also over the course of his career?
Well, I think in year one, it's to not turn the ball over. He's had 30 fumbles in the pocket, and Bear fans have seen enough of that, right? Bear fans have seen enough of quarterbacks that fumble than Justin Fields, so he's got to protect the ball. Sometimes he plays small in the pocket. Sometimes, he's a 6'1" quarterback. And he plays small, but I think he can play when he plays and just plays within the framework of the scheme. I think he's going to be really good. And look, I think they have a chance to really improve. This will be the first time where I believe in the last 2 times the Bears have drafted quarterbacks. I didn't like Trubisky. I said it then. I didn't like Fields. I said it then. This is the first quarterback they've taken that on the field has the ability to really elevate the players.
And I think, what happened a little bit, I think, in the eye of a lot of people when it comes to perspective of Caleb Williams. First off, it was, he paints his nails. He cried in the stands. All right, remove that, okay? Secondly, it was USC underachieved this year. So, and when you win the Heisman Trophy, people are kind of chipping at you, wanting you to come down. I mean, if you look back at his sophomore film at USC, I mean, that is a special player.
No, Tim, I don't think it's the nails as much. I think we've grown to accept it. I mean, there's a great book out by Jonathan Haidt called The Anxious Generation, which talks about a lot of the players today, and he doesn't talk about players. He talks about this generation is more of a phone generation than a playground generation. And so I think people are accustomed to that. It's the connectivity. It's the lone. Is he going to be alone with the team? Is he going to be able to connect? Is he going to pull one of those Kyler Murray? I mean, look, let's face it. The last 3 quarterbacks that come out of Oklahoma have not been endearing to their teammates, Baker included. I mean, it's taken Baker to get cut twice before he's become endearing to his teammates. So there's an issue there. And Oklahoma was worried about it. And then he went to SC, and they're worried about it. He's got to overcome that. And that's why he spent time this summer. This visit when he came in was to then kind of connect with his teammates. Yeah. The poor Sam Howell, he led the league in interceptions. I mean, the fact that they called so many stupid passes. I mean, nobody's going to blame the enemy for the horrendous offense that this team was running last year. The guy almost got the guy killed through this many interceptions. I mean, if I was Sam Howell's dad, I'd be raising hell.
Sam Howell's just in Seattle enjoying a nice night out, and it's just like showing up all your
throwing
worst
shade
stuff.
at him.
Commanders, the pick is in. We'll get to that when we come back on the other side. We're up against it here. We all believe it's going to be Jaden Daniels. That's what the betting market believes that it is. We'll find out and let you guys know. It is. All right. It is Jaden Daniels, the Washington Commanders. We'll break it down, give you the analysis on the other side. It's the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. Hardwood Handicappers offers daily NBA analysis and picks from VSiN's top hosts and experts. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
This isn't your typical betting show. This is the Sports Gambling Podcast live on VSiN.
Forget what you know.
Done.
Because we're rewriting the playbook.
I'm Sean Sack of the Money Green with my partner in picks, Ryan Real Money Kramer. And every Friday night, we're taking over VSiN, giving our best bets. And, of course, talking a ton of trash on everyone that costs us money.
We don't follow trends, we set them.
Bit of a stretch, but we are the Sports Gambling Podcast live here every Friday night, 9 p.m. East, 6 p.m. Pacific on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you didn't catch the handle, here's what you missed.
The NFL has reinstated 5 different players that they suspended for violating the gambling policy. And again, not all these are created equal. And so some of these guys that didn't bet on football, that didn't whatever, like just kind of violated some sort of little rule. They got their hand slapped and now they're getting reinstated into the league. And look, that's fine. I think cooler heads need to prevail on some of these suspensions in the first place. And maybe there's a fine before a suspension if you're not really doing anything wrong. Again, if you're betting on cricket sitting in the cold tub, maybe just remind them via a $50,000 fine that you shouldn't be doing that. But that's really no harm, no foul with all of this. And so it's an ever evolving process in this. And so we at least have 5 more guys that are coming back for non-egregious offenses.
The Handle with Matt Brown and Mike Somich. Weekends at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It's safe to say that Florida State enters this season with a target on their back after running through the ACC a year ago. I'm Tim Murray from VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Florida State is the favorite right now to win the ACC yet again, but not by much. They sit at plus 275 after a 13-1 record a year ago. Their lone loss coming in the Orange Bowl to Georgia with plenty of opt-outs. Mike Norvell entering year number 5 as the head coach in Tallahassee. Lots of key players lost, including quarterback Jordan Travis, but in comes DJ Uiagalelei, who once upon a time was a QB at Clemson. Speaking of those Clemson Tigers, a disappointing 9-4 season last year. They're plus 280 to win the ACC. Dabo Swinney entering year number 17, and he will bring in Cade Klubnik yet again as his starter. Miami with Cam Ward, they are plus 450.
For more, head to VSiN.com.
The time of unreliable injury reports and rest days are over. The playoffs are here, and it's the best time to bet the NBA. Throughout the NBA playoffs, VSiN has daily best bets, analytics reports, and series previews all the way through the NBA Finals. You can also watch our 24/7 video stream, access our betting splits, and get picks sent to your inbox every morning so you can get ahead of any late line movement. To get access to everything VSiN has to offer for the NBA playoffs, become a VSiN Pro subscriber at vsin.com/pro.
At VSiN, we've got you covered before, during, and after every game. Jumpstart your game day with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN Primetime at 6 Eastern. They'll get you ready before the first tip, puck drop, and pitch, ensuring you're ahead of the game. Then stay in the loop during all the action with the Greg Peterson Experience at 9. And as the night wraps up, join Matt Humans and Wes Reynolds on VSiN Tonight at 11, giving you the first look at tomorrow's lines to get an edge on the next day's bets. All this and more, only on VSiN, the sports betting network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Oh boy, got it already.
Welcome back. This is the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. The picks are rolling in here, Michael.
The picks are rolling in. Now, look, there's
what do you got for us?
Well, it's going to take a little bit of time to get this. So I think that, New England wasted no time. They've turned the card in already. So basically, Arizona, as we're watching all these highlights, Arizona's on the clock. And, there'll be a special player from North Carolina probably picked here. Okay. I would think so. So that's the guy they wanted all along, and they wouldn't move away from him.
That's where it gets interesting.
And that sound that you hear when this card gets turned in, will be the New York Giants that's who they wanted. Yeah. I mean, the Giants really wanted a quarterback. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what Monty Ossendorf does here, because it's gone to script, right? And so does he trade this pick at 4? Okay, does he trade the pick at 4? Or does he just take Harrison, who I think he'll take? A lot of people think he could take Nabers. But it's going to be an offensive lineman, which then would lead, 4, then 5, and then that would lead the Giants at 6. Will they take McCarthy? Because we saw McCarthy today on our show, the Lombardi Line. We saw him talking a lot about how the Giants are really interested in him. Now, I believe the Giants wanted Maye, but could they pivot? Okay, could they pivot? That's the most people that have ever been in a New England Patriots draft room.
They took the franchise back, Michael.
By 5. Yes, where's Jonathan? No, he's not going to be in the picture. That's the beautiful thing. It's Kaiser Sose.
They took the franchise back. They had to.
They had to. And Mike Silver said it was the best thing to do.
So there was last week, right, guys? There was a crash in the market. Yep. Jaden Daniels got as high as -350. Schefter went on that podcast and said, get your Jaden Daniels jerseys. And then it crashed, whether it was the Top Golf thing, whether it was the liking of the tweets, or if it was just people on the other side saying, we don't really know. Nothing's come out of there. And then we saw that steam start to come back and back and back. So Jaden Daniels, a Washington Commander, boy, I mean, I don't know, Michael, where he was thought of from a draft perspective entering this year, but just an absolutely remarkable season. Wins the Heisman Trophy, obviously. 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 72% completion percentage, rushed for 1,100 yards. And, for Washington, a franchise, and I could speak to this, with a new ownership group, a general manager, adults in the room. We'll see about Dan Quinn, but I think the front office, new ownership, they needed someone like Jaden Daniels to breathe enthusiasm into that fan base. And I think he's the type of player, I could speak to the people that I talked to back at D.C. that they wanted, because he's exciting, he's multidimensional, and we'll see if he ends up being a better quarterback prospect than Drake Maye as the selection is in right now.
He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to learn to not run with it when the play breaks down. I mean, that's going to be the key. And, for him, he's going to go right into the starting. The first 2 guys are going right in the starting lineup, right? Caleb is going to start, and that's going to affect it. Now, we also got that, Jaden Daniels is going to go in the starting lineup, and will that affect the win total for the Washington Commanders? Now, look, they've added a lot of players to their team. They've improved the overall depth of their team. There's no question. And they will be better coached offensively and defensively, because you can't get any worse coach than they were offensively. I mean, it was a joke last year offensively. They called passes on every single play. Defensively, it just was a complete meltdown. So they're going to be improved. Now, this kid, Drake Maye, Brissett's going to be the starter. And this guy's not going to play. They've got to redshirt him, and they've got to do a lot of work with him and fix him.
So it was interesting. We had we were filling in on a Follow the Money last Friday. We had former Commanders, or I guess he was Redskins, Washington coach, whatever, Jay Gruden on the show. He's now doing media stuff, and he said, if you have all the time in the world, I would take Drake Maye. But to your point, he felt like he needs time to develop. And I think what New England said they were going to do, we're going to go spend $8 to $10 million on a quarterback. They spent $8 million on Jacoby Brissett. Drake Maye, to Michael's point, I think is maybe not going to start at all this year, maybe towards the end of the year. But it's really going to be fascinating because a lot of people out there believe that he was truly the second best quarterback in this draft class from a prospect perspective.
Look, he's got he's got potential, but there is a Republican-Democrat separation on Drake Maye in terms of opinion. You've got the hard right and you got the hard left, and there's nobody in between, right? And it's really and there's a lot of truth to it. The Giants thought he had Josh Allen-like traits. Hard to tackle. We could just see there we threw the ball left-handed, and so I think ultimately this is going to come down to how quickly can they develop him. Where is he going to be, when they do this? Alex Van Pelt, remember now, he was with Deshaun Watson last year. What are they going to run? Are they going to run a West Coast offense? Because that's what Van Pelt's been trained like. He is a West Coast guy, played quarterback in the league, played at Pitt, was with the Browns with Stefanski, ran that kind of offense, that play action, West Coast variation of it. I think it's just going to take time. Brissett will beat him. He can't beat Brissett out. He's not ready to beat Brissett out.
Yeah,
okay?
not day one.
He's not ready to beat him out. Now, the fans are going to want him in week 4 if Brissett doesn't play well. But with that offensive line and the uncertainty at right tackle right now and the uncertainty at left tackle, I think it's probably good that they redshirt him, and so this will be a pick for the future.
So these three guys are going to be compared, just because if they went 1, 2, 3, Williams, Daniels, and May. But when I hear you talk about Drake Maye and Tim, what you bring up with Jay Gruden, it sounds like there's a chance that, correct me if I'm wrong, could Drake Maye maybe have the highest upside of any of these three guys that just went 1, 2, 3?
I think that's what people say because he's so young. But I'm the other way. I don't want a young quarterback because the young quarterback has to go through a growing process. Yeah. I've been trained by Parcells wanted a quarterback who started 37 games. Yep. And so this kid hasn't. This is one of my beefs with Trubisky. He didn't play enough. You really didn't have enough. And the problem with Bo Nix is he played too much. So you got too many. Bill Walsh used to say this all the time. When a guy's a 4-year starter, there's a lot to complain about because he's played a lot. There's no perfect player. There's always something you can nitpick on. And I think ultimately that's the case. But look, here, this pick here, let's get it back to the betting market. This pick here is not going to affect the New England win total at all. Mm-hmm. At all. Right? It's not going to affect it at all. They're going to be picking in the top 5 probably again next year because they've got a lot of moving pieces. But Kraft wanted someone that he could feel like was going to be the pick. Oh. Yeah. And no trade. We have no trade, Femi. We have no trade so far. The pick is in. The Cardinals have made it, and it has gone to script. It has gone right down to script.
So Harrison Jr.
Yep. So now, assuming this is Marvin Harrison Jr., which is what we kind of all anticipated, no surprises, this is where it gets interesting.
No, I don't think it gets interesting here. I really don't.
Latham? Do you think it's Alt?
I think it's Latham or Alt.
I'd be fine with either. There's no trade.
I think you don't think they trade down?
I do not think they're going to trade down.
Do you think it's because they don't want to, or no one's going to give them what they want?
I think no one's going to give them what they want.
I
think they want the tackle. I think they want the tackle. And I think now it's going to come down to the New York Football Giants. Do they take McCarthy, or do they take
Nabers?
And we don't know yet if the Chargers will trade in or trade out or not. But just to point out, when me and JVT were on prior to the show talking about the betting market and how it was moving, the one move we really saw was money coming in on the J.J. McCarthy over, which was 5.5. It was plus money yesterday. It is now minus. It closed around minus 190.
Yeah, like 195.
And now it's coming down to this 5th pick that the Chargers would have to trade out. And I thought the interesting thing that we discussed a lot on the show, guys, was if you're betting the under on J.J. McCarthy, you're betting on a trade, which is hard to figure out.
You can't factor that in.
Exactly. So that's just really challenging.
You don't know what the offers were. Now, Monty said he was open for business, right? But Monty is – I know Monty really well. Monty is not taking the driver out on 18 at Augusta if he's got a 2-stroke lead. He's going to play the 3-iron down the middle. Harrison's the safe play for him. He's guaranteed an A in the draft.
Oh, yeah.
They can't wait to give him an A. Okay? They don't need the nuns to come in from Catholic school to grade the report card. He's got an A.
And they have pick 27, too.
He's got an A. He was going right down the middle. He's got a really good player, and he's going to go with them, and they're going to feel really good about it. And that's why he wasted no time to turn the card in. Now, I think what's going to happen here is Jim is going to pick an offensive player. I think an offensive lineman. I don't see how. Now, maybe the Giants decide. I don't know why the Giants would flip just to keep. See, one of the things you want to do in a draft room is if you're worried about the pick being traded, what we do is it's what they call freeze the pick. So you're on the phone with the team to try to figure out if they're going to trade the pick. You're not really trying to trade it. You're just trying to get confusion into their draft room. Hey, you want to trade this pick? You want to trade? Yeah, we got another call. Okay, now when he says we have another call, you've got to, okay, we'll give you this just to flip one spot. So now they're thinking about it. We don't want to go that far down. So you're trying to freeze the pick so that they stay there or they give it to you for basically less. And you have an idea as a team that's trading with them if somebody's trying to get up in front of you. So that's kind of what's going on. And I think, that's why the clock will keep moving here. But at the end of the day, I just don't see Jim moving too far to get away from the player he wants.
Yeah, and they have their pick of the litter in terms of the offensive linemen in this draft class here, because the first non-quarterback selected is Marvin Harrison Jr., who's been like the overwhelming favorite in that betting market since.
There was a couple rumors.
There was
a couple rumors yesterday that maybe Malik Nabers is ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe they trade back to 6, and no, it's Marvin Harrison. He's been the consensus. Whether he was 1 or 2, he's been a top 2 player in this draft. He's elite, and he gives another massive blue chip player. They need him. We talked about this early on, Michael. They need
good players.
Good players, and they got a really good one, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Anywhere.
Comes from great lineage. He's a Hall of Fame wide receiver dad who the broadcast shows.
Now it becomes interesting, fellas.
We'll see what the Los Angeles Chargers do, who are on the clock. Pick 5 coming up after the break.
VSiN is thrilled to introduce a new VSiN.com tailor-made to the evolved needs of today's sports bettors. Our upgraded navigation streamlines your journey, allowing you to swiftly access articles, videos, and podcasts. Whether you're tuning in live or catching up on your favorite shows, everything is just a click away. VSiN.com guarantees a fluid and responsive experience across all devices, ensuring you stay connected wherever you are. We have enhanced tools such as our betting splits and expert picks, and introduce innovative features like parlay and odds calculators, all designed to make you a sharper bettor. Our how to bet section is perfect for beginners, covering the fundamentals, while seasoned bettors can delve into our advanced betting strategies for the competitive edge you've been looking for. Sign up for free on VSiN.com or become a VSiN Pro subscriber, where you can unlock unlimited access to every tool, expert picks, and insight that make VSiN the sports betting network.
If you didn't catch the Lombardi line, here's what you missed.
I don't know why the NBA would admit that they blew the calls, and yet they're not suspending the crew. Like, what good is that? Because there's just admitting you're wrong doesn't make the 76ers 1-1. It doesn't. So, what's the point in admitting you're wrong? Yeah. We all know you were wrong. I mean, you don't have to admit it. We all know
do you just want us to say we appreciate the transparency?
Yeah,
this did nothing to win them the game now.
Why wouldn't you just say, okay, that crew is no longer going to officiate any of these games moving forward because of their incredible. I mean, they're grabbing Maxi's jersey. Come on. And I mean, Nurse is over there calling timeout. Nobody's paying attention. I mean, I think who deserves the credit for that game? The atmosphere at the Garden, how electric it is. I think the officials got caught up in the feeling of the Garden.
The Lombardi Line, weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, weekends at 10 a.m. Eastern on VSiN, the sports betting network.
The SEC may have a new look in 2024 between eliminating divisions and adding Texas and Oklahoma to the conference, but there's a familiar face atop the odds board to win it all. Hi, I'm Stormy Bonantoni with VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The Georgia Bulldogs are a short plus 190 price to get redemption in the title tilt following last year's SEC championship loss to Alabama that cost the Dogs a spot in the CFP. Kirby Smart's team is also a plus 330 favorite to win a third national title in 4 years. Newcomer Texas, who did make the Final Four a year ago, is the second shortest shot at plus 320 to claim their SEC title in the first season. Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss team at 6-1 looks to build on their 11-2 season a year ago, bringing back offensive stars Jackson Dart, Trey Harris, and Caden Priestcorn. It feels wrong to see the Crimson Tide so far down the board at 9-1, but that's the Nick Saban retirement effect. LSU rounds out the short shots at plus 950, but will have to navigate a new chapter with without Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Jaden Daniels, who's on to the NFL.
For more, head to VSiN.com.
Elevate your sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup. Then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
At VSiN, we've got you covered before, during, and after every game. Jumpstart your game day with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN Primetime at 6 Eastern. They'll get you ready before the first tip, puck drop, and pitch, ensuring you're ahead of the game. Then stay in the loop during all the action with the Greg Peterson Experience at 9. And as the night wraps up, join Matt Humans and Wes Reynolds on VSiN Tonight at 11, giving you the first look at tomorrow's lines to get an edge on the next day's bets. All this and more, only on VSiN, the sports betting network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Who's got it better than us here on the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special? The Los Angeles Chargers and Jim Harbaugh on the clock right now. The pick at number 4 was Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. We didn't get a whole lot of chance to break down Harrison, the player, because, Michael, I know we've discussed throughout this process, you're higher on Nabers than you are on Harrison, and there's other people in league circles who share that same sentiment here, but all that matters is the team that's picking at 4, and the Cardinals had the higher grade on Harrison.
No question. And I think beauty's in the eye of the beholder. The Chargers pick is in. And Tim is going to be extremely happy with the Chargers pick.
Okay.
He is going to be extremely happy with the Chargers pick. That nonsense about Latham being the pick here may not actually be accurate.
Oh, that's all right.
Well,
it sounds like it could be a big 6'8" fella from South Bend.
That's your guy, right? From South Bend.
The Irish, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if it is Joe Alt, which is what we are believing it to be here at number 5, I think that's a smart pick. You know, sticking at offensive line, and there was a belief. Look, I took a long shot flyer on Latham at 27-1, but I also took a little alt as well. Shout out to Matt Humans, that was in his mock draft. This is a smart pick, and Michael, I'm curious your thoughts. Was Joe Alt the consensus best lineman in your eyes?
That's what I had him as. Yeah. You know, I had him as the best lineman, and I think to me, one of the things I think, Jim didn't bull. I mean, he wasn't bulling. I mean, when he said he was going to take an offensive, when he said the offensive line was a priority, he wasn't lying. And you still see mocks out there that were giving him receivers. I mean, it was unbelievable. This receiver movement is amazing. How and you've got people like your boy Danny O, Femi. I know you two. When he comes to Vegas, you two hang out. I know that. But
that's just kitchen. We're waiting for you.
Yeah. I mean, but it makes no sense at all. Like, he's building a team. He's building a team. So look, they need now, here's the interesting thing. Do they take Slater and move him over to right tackle? See, I think the 8.5 on the Chargers is way too low. I think they're going to be better just because they're tougher. Mike Somich was on our show today, and Mike Somich he's not buying it. He don't think they have enough talent to be better. It's interesting. Last year, they're the most talented team in the league. They underachieved. This year, they're not as talented because they lost Keenan Allen and they lost Mike Williams. I mean, like, seriously, I'm not shying any. They couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't win a close game. They had no toughness.
And those guys are oftentimes injured. So it's like
oftentimes they're always injured.
So they're injured.
The interesting thing is the pick is officially going to be announced of Joe Alt to the Chargers here. Is to your question, Michael, which is, do they switch him to the right side with Rashawn Slater? He came to Notre Dame as a tight end.
Right.
So they taught him to be a left tackle as a freshman, as a true freshman, when that line was garbage and they couldn't figure it out. And then he became an All-American. So I think if they want to move him to the right side, as the pick is officially in, I think you'll be able to pick up on it rather quickly.
Yeah. Well, look, to me, if I'm Jim, I'm going to play him at left tackle. I'll move Slater over because you're getting more length over there. Slater, remember, isn't the longest of players. So you want more length at left tackle. Now, look, the one thing you do not want to be in the National Football League is where New England was last year, which is tackle poor. You don't want to be tackle poor. It's where the Jets are. The Jets are tackle poor. You don't want to be tackle poor because if you lose your left tackle, you might as well write your season off.
So real quick,
big man. I'm just looking at the feed right now.
He's enormous. He's 6'8". I actually took a picture. I should tweet it out. Of former Broncos offensive lineman, offensive tackle Ryan Harris.
Notre Dame kid.
Was standing next to
radio
Joe
in
Alt.
Denver. Yeah,
because I was at the Sun Bowl. He was standing next to Joe Alt and Blake Fisher, who will probably be like a 3rd or 4th round pick. Who was their right tackle, and Joe Alt was towering over Ryan Harris, who was started on the Super Bowl 50 Broncos. Yeah. By the way, just a note from a betting perspective, this was around plus 475. Shout out once again, Matt Youmans had this in his mock draft, so a good hit for him and a good price bet recommendation as well. Also, the trickle-down effect, J.J. McCarthy over cashes now, and shout out to Jonathan Von Tobel. He gave that out on our show, so that is another trickle-down effect. So we are now over on J.J. McCarthy. Joe Alt's over-under was 7.5, and it became massively juiced, and that, of course, cashes as well.
Let's talk Big Blue.
Yeah.
They're on the clock. 6th overall. My thing with the Giants is it's don't trust anybody based on what we've seen over the last couple of years and how they've been able to operate. It feels like they're much different than previous Giants regimes, to where I almost think whatever's been leaked about the New York Giants throughout this process, I want to believe the opposite of that.
I think they love May. I know that. I know they love May. And I was told they're not going to take McCarthy, although McCarthy believed on the Rich Eisen show yesterday that he was the team that he thought he was going to. Like, I promise you, McCarthy's looking at his phone right now expecting a 201 number to come in.
Oh.
He's expecting it. I don't think that's the case, but that's what he was saying on the air today, that no team did more work on him than the New York Football Giants. And look, if the Giants want to start off on the perspective and the pick is in, and we're going to find out right now what the pick is here. Hold on. Well, suspense, Femi.
Suspense, yeah. We'll get the drum roll, please.
I would guess as he checks his phone that it is a pass catcher out of LSU.
I think that's absolutely correct, and that's what I thought it was too. You know, it's going to be – look, they didn't like McCarthy. That for some reason they didn't see Josh. See, you got to remember something. When you're analyzing the draft for the mock, you're looking at what do they like. It's a little bit like you go into the ice cream store with your, what do you like? What do you want? You want mint chocolate chip? You want Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, they want Josh Allen. That's who they've had success with. That's how they've gotten these jobs. And Drake Maye was their Josh Allen. And once they couldn't make the trade, the happiest guy in the Giant draft room right now, the happiest human being in the Giant draft room right now is John Mara. Because he gets another year of Daniel Jones. Now, let's put this. Nabers is really good, and he'll stretch a defense. Will he help Daniel Jones go over the 7.0 threshold on average per attempt that he's never reached in his entire NFL career? I don't know. Because I think that's going to be the biggest issue. Can they get the ball down the field? Do they trust him enough? Can they protect well enough? See, everybody has him taking a receiver, and certainly he's a really good player, Nabers. But the reality of it is they haven't been able to protect anybody.
And you've always talked about how the last piece of the team building is the receiver. You want to have other pieces around the offensive line. You want to have a quarterback, because if you have a receiver and you don't have those other pieces, it ends up looking like Devontae Adams in Las Vegas here, where they can't get him the football. Right. And it's like, all right, now he's frustrated. Like, you don't want that situation. Not to say that that's what's going to happen with Nabers, but that can happen with some of these wide receivers if they don't have the pieces to help them at least be productive.
No question. And they got a quarterback who can't get the ball down the field, so their quarterback room really is not very good.
They love it, though.
So the Giants over-under total here, if you're really playing it, you got to say to yourself, they're not good. They haven't done anything. This is a good player, but that's not going to change. The quarterback has to get him the football. But John Mara believes he can. There's a Mara family believes that this guy can do it, right? He believes he can. So, I'm not sure.
So what's going to be really fascinating now is Tennessee at 7, because the most, I would say, outside of Caleb Williams and then eventually Jaden Daniels, the most mock selection was Joe Alt to 7. Tennessee, he's gone. Right? He's gone now. He's at 5. So does Tennessee trade out? Is this where that run starts? Or do they stick and pick, my favorite new phrase of the draft season, do they pick JC Latham? Do they pick another tackle here? It's going to be really interesting to see, because I'm curious what you've heard, Michael. You've got this run of thoughtful wide quarterback needy teams of Minnesota at 11, Denver at 12, and Las Vegas at 13. At what point does one of those I almost said schools, one of those franchises trade up? Or do they not need to?
I don't know if they have to right now. When you look at this, right, we're sitting here at 7. That's going to be either going to be an offensive lineman or wide receiver. The dark horse is the wide receiver. Would they pick Odunze here? Right? Atlanta's going to be a defensive player, and Chicago could be a defensive player too. And then it gets interesting at 11.
No trades yet, just by the way. No trades yet.
They take McCarthy at 11. And if you're the Raiders, if McCarthy goes 11, and then all of a sudden Nix goes 12 and Penix goes 13.
If you had to handicap it right now, which quarterback do you think hears their name called next? Is it McCarthy?
McCarthy.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's McCarthy.
To 11?
Yeah, and I think if you understand Kevin O'Connell,
Minnesota would have played this really well.
If you understand Kevin O'Connell and you understand Sean Payton, they both want the same thing. They want quarterbacks with foot movement. They want quarterbacks who can process. They want good quarterbacks who are going to do what they tell them to do on the field. Why did they drive Nick Mullins drive him crazy? Why did Josh Dobbs drive him? Because he couldn't get him to do what he wanted. Here's the guy wide open. We got the guy. Why are you looking over here? Your feet are telling you to look here. That's part of this whole thing that no one understands is, you got to, and for Russell Wilson, it was really hard.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, especially in his prime, was one of those quarterbacks that like to color outside the lines, and that's not going to fly in one of those offenses where they want you to, see it, throw it, and get the ball out of your hands. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock. We're up against it right now. We're about to take a quick break and wrap up our first hour. But hour number 2, I'm assuming we will have the Titans pick at 7, or maybe there's a shakeup with the trade. Is there any trade news, Michael?
I haven't heard any.
Okay.
That 6.5 under is looking good right now.
That's it. Yeah. Under 6.5 trades. I mean, I didn't see it. Every year we talk about how we're going to get all these trades, and they never really come to fruition. That does it for hour number 1. Hour number 2, we begin in Nashville with the Titans at 7.
The 82-game preseason is in the books, and it's finally time for the real season. Don't miss out on any of the NBA playoff action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code VSiN. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/bball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. Hardwood Handicappers offers daily NBA analysis and picks from VSiN's top hosts and experts. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
The time of unreliable injury reports and rest days are over. The playoffs are here, and it's the best time to bet the NBA. Throughout the NBA playoffs, VSiN has daily best bets, analytics reports, and series previews all the way through the NBA Finals. You can also watch our 24/7 video stream, access our betting splits, and get picks sent to your inbox every morning so you can get ahead of any late line movement. To get access to everything VSiN has to offer for the NBA playoffs, become a VSiN Pro subscriber at VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Fills in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's Late Night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
If you didn't catch Follow the Money, here's what you missed.
What'd you think of Maxey getting most improved? Guy scored 20 a game last year.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem.
I don't understand this. This is completely backwards.
Well, okay,
it's like John Morant part 2. That was a good player.
Yeah, answer your question with another question. Don't you think there needs to be more fine print for this award? It seems like they...
I think it's common sense should prevail. But
it doesn't.
That doesn't fit. Kobe White, Jalen Williams, who wasn't even a finalist, that's most improved.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, a guy who averages 20 a game, if he bumps it up to like 32 or 30, okay, but he went from 20 to 25. What did Kobe White go?
Kobe White went from 9 to 19.
That's most improved.
Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network. You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Welcome back. This is the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. Femi Abebefe, Michael Lombardi, former NFL executive, Tim Murray, host here at VSiN Primetime, also the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. Gentlemen, we are through now 7 selections in the NFL Draft. The Tennessee Titans pick is in. Who will be the next member of the Tennessee Titans?
JC Latham from Alabama. I mean, I'm shocked by this. I thought Brian Callahan would win this and take a receiver, but it's the right play. It really is the right play. They couldn't block anybody. And if you want to help Will Levis out, you need to protect him. Will Levis is a slow processor. He's not one of those rhythm quarterbacks, 1, 2, 3, boy, the ball. His arm is not tied to his feet. And so you need to be able to have extra protection. And to get a left tackle, to get somebody to come in there, they've tried to improve the offensive line in the offseason as best they can. His father, Bill Callahan's a really good line coach. He'll make Latham a good player. I'm sure he signed off on the pick. So that's a good thing. And I think that gives Tennessee a chance to really kind of get their offense going. They've got Ridley now. They got Hopkins, and they've changed their running back situation with Pollard in there. So I like what they're doing. I mean, I think this is probably a good move. They've got a long way to go defensively. We'll see how that works out. I know they added Snead to their team, but I think ultimately when you break this down, this was the right pick. And Brian Callahan, as much as he wanted to go outside in, finally went inside out.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great play. I mean, the whole thing for the Tennessee Titans is you got to keep Will Levis upright. You got to protect him because that's where the franchise is going. They have entrusted the keys of the franchise in Will Levis, and Rand Carthon has been really strong behind that there. So Levis, a guy who's battled injuries dating back to college, was injured this year in the NFL. I think that's something that they got to go ahead and protect him. So offensive line is where they go, and now at pick 8, is this where things kind of get fun a little bit? Is that where we can maybe start to get some of these trades that were projected? The reports earlier today about teams wanting to move up, like the Rams, the 49ers, maybe discussions of potentially trading Ayuk or even Deebo Samuel. I think a lot of people think that Brock Bowers could have his name called pretty soon here now with these teams lining up at 8, 9, and 10.
I mean, look, if Brock Bowers' name gets picked here at 8, 9, or 10, it's because of a trade. It's not because these teams are picking them, right? So, will the Rams, I mean, to go from 19 to 8, it's going to cost you next year's 1. Do you really want to do that for Brock Bowers? Do you really want to do that? Now, maybe they feel like they got to get over the Jets, but you've just got back into the draft. If you give away next year's 1 with Matt Stafford at 36 years old, where are you getting your quarterback next year? I mean, it's going to be a hard thing to do. So you just can't you can't just go down the aisle and shop and throw everything in your cart. You got to be a little more careful than this. So I kind of think that that's what they'll do. I mean, I'm sure they want to get up to get Bowers, and he would be outstanding in Sean's offense. But for me, I think you have to be really careful on where you're going here.
Yeah, and could we see the first defensive player off the board if Atlanta doesn't trade? We haven't seen a trade yet. So Atlanta thought to be in the Dallas Turner market. Could it be Byron Murphy as the first defensive player? Could it be
Latu?
Yeah. Well, I think it should be Murphy. I think they should dash up to the screen and turn it in. I mean, I don't think they should waste any moment of this because he's the best player for their team. They need a 3 technique. Grady, Grady Jackson.
Grady Jarrett. Yeah.
Grady Jackson, a former defensive lineman.
Holy smokes.
Whoa, they did it.
Wow.
Michael, they did it.
They picked Penix?
Michael Penix to the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow. And we talked about this on the pod, and kudos to ESPN's Adam Schefter, who had that in his mailbag about saying that
the
general
craziest
managers.
thing possible.
I read that when I was reading that thing, and I was like, I could see him going in the first round, but 8, come on, let's get real. They gave Kirk Cousins that big contract, but now they still want their quarterback of the future, who apparently is going to be Washington QB Michael Penix Jr.
Well, God bless them, Look, you can't argue with it. They have a quarterback coming off an Achilles. They get a guy who throws it down the field. But has any team loved drafting offensive players more than this team?
7 on 7.
It's unbelievable. And here's the thing. Everybody thinks their teams on the win total is going to be unbelievable. I just got a text from somebody in the league. What are they doing? It's unbelievable. But, hey, look, I like Penix. He's a good deep ball thrower. The Raiders just got deflated here, right? The Raiders just got deflated because they were expecting. There's your fourth quarterback, right? McCarthy hasn't gone yet. Is he the fifth? It's McCarthy, and now it comes down to Nix. It's McCarthy and Nix. And I think Minnesota, who probably had no interest in Penix, the team that's left on the outside looking in is the Raiders, because I think that was the Raiders' pick.
I know they said that they love Jaden Daniels.
No team loves to trade away from three techniques more than this team. Last year they picked Bijan Robinson, and now they pick Penix. Wonder how Kirk Cousins feels about that. Why would you spend all this money for Kirk Cousins?
They've been parading the guy at Hawks games, at the soccer games, everywhere.
He was at the Braves game on Sunday night.
Kirk O'Chains is throwing out the first pitch, and now they go ahead and draft a replacement.
This is what you get when you have Kaiser Sose McKay, and you got Super Bowl winner Fontenot. You got 21 wins between Fontenot in 3 years. McKay's won 69 and 70 in his career at the Falcons. This is what you get. But I did say this. Look, I knew the Rams liked Penix, and Robinson is their new offensive coordinator. He liked Penix, and he came over. Yep. This is not a knock on the Penix pick at all. And I think, to me, it gives them a chance to develop a quarterback. But why did you pay all this money to Cousins? Yeah. Why did you have to draft Penix at 8 and then just go with it?
Yeah. The paying Cousins that contract doesn't make any sense.
This makes the Cousins look more ridiculous.
It makes it look. It's
4 years, $180 million, and you use an 8th overall pick for Michael Penix.
And it's not that they hadn't watched Michael Penix.
And he's not going to play for 2 years. He's going to be Jordan Love.
But the thing with Love, though, is Love was 21.
Yeah.
Michael Penix is already 24 years old. He might not play till he's 26, 27.
I don't get but I don't get a lot of things they do. Look, this is the Falcons, and that's funny. I had somebody in the league call me up today, and they said the most ridiculous thing they've read in a long time was that Belichick couldn't fit in the top 3 of their coaching search, and they're bragging about it. They were bragging about it. Now let me ask you this question: do you think Belichick would have picked Penix? He might have picked Penix if he had the 8th pick, but he wouldn't have signed Kirk Cousins.
He would not have signed Kirk Cousins. And
this is bizarre world.
The Penix draft prop, what was it, 3 days ago? It was 32.5.
32.5. It stayed at 32.5. Now, I got heavily juiced to the under because of the belief. It was most commonly mocked to the Raiders, as you alluded to, that the Raiders liked Michael Penix at 13. But, man, going 8. I thought, I'll be honest, I saw Adam Schefter and his notes. I was like, there's just no way. It felt like agent talk to me. But
it felt like a throwaway line. A GM told me that watch out for the Falcons at 8 with Michael Penix, and I was like, okay, I guess we should watch out. I even looked at his odds after reading that. And I think he was
8.
Yeah, he was 20 to 1 to be selected by the Falcons. And I said, do I really want to do this? Whatever, I'm not going to do it. And now I'm kicking myself. I wish I did, because this guy just goes 8th overall. Michael Penix Jr., who some people thought might not hear his name called until Friday, is now the 8th overall selection. And the first shock of this NFL draft, we just got it now here at pick 8 with the Falcons.
The beautiful thing about the Falcons, they didn't want Lamar Jackson, put out a statement that they didn't want it, and then the next year they double up on quarterbacks. Tell me they know what they're doing. Tell me there's a plan down there. I know Kaiser Sose McKay's running it. Don't hide behind the shield. Come out in the open and be a man and tell me this is what I want to do. It's serious. He's the trustee of Arthur Blank's estate. You don't think he knows what's going on? Give me a break.
We were expecting our first curveball, and
this wasn't a curveball. This is a screwball.
Yeah, it's going all over the place.
One of those gyro balls that's going. It's what's going on?
Schefter tweeted, Raheem Morris loved him. Raheem Morris loved him. Then why is Terry Fontenot, the Super Bowl winning general manager, what's his job then? If it takes Raheem Morris to love him, to draft him, what is Fontenot doing?
I don't understand it.
Oh my God! I mean, seriously, putting that out makes it look worse.
Yeah.
If I'm the GM of the Falcons and we just hired Raheem, I love him, but we're doing what Raheem. See, I could read you a text. In fact, I'll get it while you guys are looking.
You don't have to out whoever it is, but just read it to us. And if you have to edit it, make sure you edit it for whatever language might be in there. But I'm curious, just the fact that clearly, I'm assuming somebody in the Atlanta Falcons organization watched Michael Penix film prior to free agency starting. And maybe the coaches didn't get to meet him until...
Don't count on them doing their homework.
Am I assuming too much?
Don't count on that. Don't you start counting on them doing their homework, God dang it.
Maybe they flew to Seattle to the pro day, and that's where they fell in love and met him for the first time. But you would have thought that someone did some homework along the way to where, hey, let's dig more into this. And I get that the coaches sometimes get a little bit later on, but please read us.
This is from somebody who used to work in there. He said, for F's sakes, McKay always wins. I like Raheem a lot. He has a lot of strengths. But this is a bad fit. Raheem is a bad emotional talent chaser evaluator. No clue how to build a team. He needs an experienced general manager that can rein him in and guide him. He won't get that. He'd be better off dusting off Rustin Webster to be the general manager, the former GM down there. He will run roughshod over Fontenot, and Fontenot will happily lay down. I rest my case, counselor. I think we can get a conviction on that.
Might be able to. I mean Michael Penix Jr.
Where else are you going to get this? I mean, you're getting live in that tweets. I mean, There you go. How accurate is that?
It's the goods. It's the goods right there.
How accurate is that? I mean, seriously, how accurate is that? Do we have another pick here? Let's see. Yes.
The pick is in
Rome
for the Chicago
Odunze
Bears
is going to be to the Chicago Bears.
The Bears picked another receiver. I mean, it's bizarro world.
We're waiting for a defender to go off the board.
It's bizarro world.
Still no defender, and the teams that we have been told, Jacksonville and the Rams, were aggressively trying to trade up. Still no trades.
No trades. It's so
what do you
hard
think of Rome Odunze? So now you've got, Keenan Allen, you've got DJ Moore, and now Rome Odunze with Caleb Williams and Cole Kmet at tight ends.
Yeah, and who's getting the ball? Who's getting the ball? And who's separating the defense? Who's going to stretch it out? To me, I said this to somebody who's been a head coach in the league, and it wasn't Belichick who'd been a head coach in the league before. The art of team building is gone. The art of team building has left the room. There's really no team building. I mean, you're the Chicago Bears, and you have a second pick, and now you've used all these for offense. Here's the thing that people don't understand, and I know we got to go to break, and I'll hit it after we come back.
By the way, according to Ian Rappaport, the Jets are working on a trade.
There you go. They're probably the Rams or Brock Bowers. Yeah.
Maybe here comes the Rams. The Chicago Bears, by the way, they just
don't let me forget about this thing about team building when we come back.
We'll hit it when we come back. They only have 2 more picks the rest of the weekend. The Chicago Bears. They have 4 picks entering the draft. First 2 of them are on offense. Eberflus, hopefully he's happy. We'll be back to break this down on the other side. It's the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special.
Remember when spring break was the most fun you could ever imagine? Well, imagine it again! DraftKings Casino presents Spring Break Rewind! Soak up games exclusive to DK brands like Rocket, plus custom takes on favorites like Blackjack, slots, and more. New customers can play $5 and get $100 instantly in casino credits from America's top online casino. Boom! The crown is yours.
We might be 6 months away from Halloween, but this group of defensive players certainly will keep quarterbacks up at night. Let's take a look at the latest odds to win Defensive Player of the Year. I'm Tim Murray from VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The favorite entering the 2024 season, Dallas's Micah Parsons, sitting at 5-1. Last year, 14 sacks for Parsons. TJ Watt, he's won this award before. He sits at 6-1 to win DPOY. 48 tackles a year ago and 19 sacks, also forced 4 fumbles. Nick Bosa sits at 7-1. Last year's winner, Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns, also at 7-1. I sit here in Las Vegas. Max Crosby, edge rusher for the Las Vegas Raiders, he is also at 7-1. A year ago, Max Crosby had 14.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles.
To become a VSiN Pro subscriber, head to VSiN.com/subscribe.
Elevate your your sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. Hardwood Handicappers offers daily NBA analysis and picks from VSiN's top hosts and experts. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
Coming up Friday on Follow the Money, we recap first round of the NFL Draft and look ahead to Friday's draft. Matt Humans with his mock and what transpired. Michael Lombardi recaps everything in hockey and NBA playoffs with Jonathan Davis and Aaron Rennie. Follow the Money weekday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're all about giving our players new and exciting ways to get in on the action. With my stat sheet, you can check out your play history and performance over time to make sure you're always playing within your means. Because when it comes to betting, it's more fun when it's for fun. The crown is yours.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Cha-ching, 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 Femi.
Whoa, I
Cha-ching,
mean, this
cha-ching.
draft has really ratcheted it up over the last 20 minutes.
Cha-ching.
We got news at 10, Michael.
Yes, we do. J.J. McCarthy is now your Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback. Here you go. And now we've got 11 with the New York Jets. Well, they take Brock Bowers. They picked up an extra 4th and a 5th. And then we got the Denver Broncos, which is going to be everybody's attention is going to be on that. The 4.5 have cashed rather easily.
In 10 picks.
You and JVT were giving me crap today. JVT was yelling at me. But then again, JVT thinks the 76ers are going to win this, beat the Celtics. So, it's sometimes.
Now, I was more yelling at. Well, I didn't yell at you. I don't think I raised my voice.
Look, everybody,
it was more about Bo Nix.
Everybody yells at me. It's no problem. I'm okay.
We're emotional about the draft.
I'm looking at the YouTube comments. They love you, man. So they don't love me, but they love you. By the way, youtube.com/VSiN Live. So let me
fire away. I'll read more texts if you want. The best text.
Join the conversation.
The best texts are some of them I get. Oh man, there's some I can't read. But.
Yeah, I was gonna say we might have to edit some of them.
So you've been in those war rooms. The Vikings were at 11. They traded up one spot. Femi, what was the compensation? A 4th and a 5th?
Yep, the 4th and a 5th.
This is an example of freezing the pick. This is why you call the team that's ahead of you, because you don't want to be lambasted. And I've been lambasted, right? I've been sitting there, and all of a sudden, Bill Walsh tells me to go get this guy on the phone. And this is back in the day. This is how old I am. The phone was busy. There wasn't call waiting at this time, right? We were going to pick a running back, Roger Vick, out of Texas A&M. And when I kept calling his number, it was busy. And when I got back in the room, they said, the Jets just picked Robert Vick. No crap. It was busy. Now they were on the phone. So what freezing the pick does is you call the team up and say, you looking to move? Yeah, we've got somebody on the phone. Well, we'll take the pick from you, because you don't know who they're going to pick. So obviously somebody was trying to get McCarthy. And and Minnesota felt like, you know what? It doesn't make any sense to hold on to these 4s and 5ths. Let's just go get McCarthy, and we'll make the pick.
Yeah. Do you think it was Denver, perhaps, that was trying to?
No, I think Denver's on Nix. I think Denver has been on Nix. I think it could have been the Raiders. I think it could have been the Raiders. I think the Raiders are sitting there when Penix went. Trust me, I think the Raiders draft room went, oh, no, oh, my God. We didn't see that coming. And now what do we now? This is when
the Adam Schefter piece.
This is when you have to this is when you have to recalibrate. This is when you have to recalibrate. And so what happens oftentimes here is when you panic. You say, okay, well, we got to get up there. We got to get up there. Okay, let's get up there. So now the Raiders are sitting there, and they know Denver's at 12, and I've been told Denver's going to pick Nix, and that Minnesota liked Nix. Minnesota went and worked Nix out with their whole group.
Wow. It's the first time, our producer Elliot is letting me know in my ear, the first time in NFL history, no defensive player in the top 10 in the NFL draft. It went offense. I mean, we knew that this was going to be an unprecedented offense-leaning draft. Like all the props were, I think there was 10.5 defenders selected in the first round. But for no defender to go
it's
in the top 10.
Well, it just goes to show you. See, it's interesting. because I've spent a lot of time on this, and Belichick and I have been having these conversations over the last 2 months. You know, there was a period after David Halberstam wrote his book about the education of a coach, where they lost to Denver in that game where Champ Bailey got the ball stripped, but they didn't get called. Yep. That was a divisional game. And then they couldn't outscore anybody. They led the league in scoring. They were in the top 10 every single year. They were first, third. The lowest they ever were 8th. And in 2014, when I went to join the team, we kind of made we got to start fixing the defense here. Like, we're not going to outscore people. We have this offense. We can't win a Super Bowl with it. Because they went a long time. The Kansas City Chiefs got to the same realization. Look, they won a Super Bowl this year with their defense. It wasn't Mahomes is great, don't get me wrong, but their defense won the Super Bowl. And they couldn't outscore people for the longest time. Remember, they got beat. So I think this mentality we have to outscore people is permeating out through. The Falcons pick makes no sense because you just gave all this money away. This is 2 years in a row. They've taken a luxury item at 8. They had a good back in Algier. They take Robinson. I think Robinson's a great back, but you didn't need Robinson. You needed Jalen Carter. This is the second year in a row you've turned down a 3 technique. Like, is Fontenot going to find a 3 technique on an olive branch somewhere? Like, tell me where he's shopping.
I want to go there too. I mean, I don't understand it from a team building. We talk so much about how the games are won and lost in the trenches, and some teams just ignore those, and then they wonder why they're picking the top 10 every single year. Yeah, like the Atlanta Falcons, they're picking at 8 every single year, and I'm not saying that they're going to be bad this year. Like, they're favored to win their division, but it's just from a team building standpoint. Here's what it says to you too, Femi and Tim. It says to you they think their team is a quarterback away. Like, they truly believe that it was just Ritter and Arthur Smith was the reason they didn't win. And I think sometimes what you don't realize is teams play you differently based on your team. So when they had to play good defense against Chicago and Justin Fields in the cold, they were horrible. Like, their defense, when they played Tampa Bay at home, Baker Mayfield went 80 yards and scored at the end of the game. Like, they have this perception they're this great defense, and they're not. They have this perception they're one player away, and they're not. Again, it comes down to evaluating your own team correctly, which they can't do. How do you give a guy all this money and then you draft a guy and you have the 8th pick in the draft? It doesn't make any sense.
And the guy's coming off an Achilles. It isn't like he was in the Pro Bowl. He's coming off an Achilles. You don't even know if he can play.
Some expensive insurance.
Oh, I got it. We're insuring the pick. Well, if you were insuring the pick, why did you give him 190?
Right. Yeah. It's the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to be a hot topic over these next couple. But the Chicago Bears, we were discussing that as we were heading to break. The Rome Odunze, you wanted to bring up something with the team building with that. Like, and I'm sure it kind of goes along with what you've been saying about teams are looking at offense a little bit too much. But Chicago, they only have 2 more. I thought they were one of the teams that I kind of thought that they could trade down just because of the limited amount of draft capital that they do have. They don't pick again until the 4th round. They just came up with 2 offensive players. If you're Matt Eberflus, the defensive-minded head coach, you got to be wondering, is my defense going to be all right? They played better at the second half of last year, but they still probably need some bodies on that defense if they want to take that next step to being a playoff contending team.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Fem. I mean, here's why. Look, if you understand that Matt Eberflus defense, it is a very simplistic defense. It relies on the strength of the front. It's a little bit like the 49ers. You've got to be able to rush the passer with 4 guys. It's not a lot of multiplicity. It's the same defense they run in Indianapolis. It's basically all about that. And so what happens is if you're not great up front, all of a sudden you can't play what they call palms, which is 2 deep or 3. You can't play it. You get good quarterbacks just tear it up, and good offensive coordinators tear it up. You need that rush. You need that. You don't need another receiver. Like another receiver, I mean, you just paid $20 million for Keenan Allen. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers up the road have no money invested in receivers.
They're kicking your butt every year.
Every year. And you can't cover them.
Yeah. It's the New York Jets are now on the clock, a team that we have dubbed on the GM Shuffle the Effers, because if everybody stays healthy on that offensive line, it's going to be a pretty good season for them. But how often is that going to be the case? What do you think that they target here at 11? Because they could go offensive line. Brock Bowers is still out there. A lot of reports that you had to get into the top 10 if you wanted Bowers. Well,
no,
I guess
the Jets picked an offensive lineman.
They went O-line?
They went O-line.
Right.
They went
Joe Douglas.
Yeah, they went with the Oregon State offensive lineman. I got to get my
Fuaga, yep. You get the pronunciation.
No, wait a minute. No, they went with the Washington. The Oregon State guy. They went with Ty Fuaga? Fashanu. They went with the Washington offensive tackle.
Troy Fashanu.
Yeah, it was spelled wrong. These guys, can they get the spelling right, please? Steve? If you're going to give me the pick, get the spelling.
Yeah.
I can't reveal my sources.
Gonna get spell check on that iPhone.
How about this? It's not Brock Bowers. Not Brock Bowers at 11. So Jets fans are going to be bummed out.
I'm sure they wanted Brock Bowers as a nice toy, but
that's
three
the smart
Washington
pick
Huskies
for the
come
Jets.
out. Right.
It's the smart pick for the Jets.
Yeah.
You got Tyron Smith, who's basically with a bad back.
Yeah.
And he can't last. And then you've got Morgan Moses over at right. You need this. This is a smart pick for the Jets. And you're getting the third tackle. Look, you got to build from the inside out. You have to do that. All these skill players, you can't have it.
So it's actually Olu Fashanu.
Oh, the left tackle from Penn State.
I'm sorry, Olu Fashanu. I can't get the print. I apologize.
It's all good. Olu. They're all kind of complicated names. They start with F.
Well, that's going to make Caleb unhappy because that's who he wanted in Chicago. Well, Caleb's going to be upset.
That was his buddy from middle school.
They went to Gonzaga High School together in Washington, D.C.
There you go. But Olu Fashanu will be the draft pick for the New York Jets at 11. We'll have a little bit of time to break that down. I actually want to circle back to J.J. McCarthy because I thought, Michael, you brought up an interesting point in our GM Shuffle podcast earlier this week about how McCarthy might not have the physical traits that wow you, but there's something intangible about what he can bring to a team.
Well, he's going to take what Kevin wants him to do and bring it out to the field. And playing in the dome, I think, is going to really help him. I think he gives them an opportunity to run their offense, right? He's not going to make mistakes. They're going to run the football, and he's going to a team that wants him, right? And give them credit. They didn't panic in the draft. They didn't trade up. They didn't sign Kirk Cousins to $40 billion and then draft Michael Penix. They played it smart, right? They played it really smart. And so I think at the end of the day, it's a good play for them. Now, they get a year with Darnold. He can come in there and they can compete with Darnold. I think this kid's going to be – I think he really felt like in talking to what he said to Rich McKay, he thought he was going to the Giants.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how McCarthy picks it up there, and we can talk all about this all throughout the weekend and everything, but how quickly can he get on the field? Sam Darnold is the guy that's kind of the insurance quarterback, that bridge guy for them, but we'll see.
By the way, if it's the Jets O-line as Olu Fashanu, Broncos on the clock.
Broncos are on the clock. Here we go. We got 5 already, Tim.
You already cashed. I just care about Bo Nix.
Over 4.5 cash is easy money. We'll be back on the other side.
Remember when spring break was the most fun you could ever imagine? Well, imagine it again! DraftKings Casino presents Spring Break Soak up games exclusive to DK brands like Rocket, plus custom takes on favorites like Blackjack, slots, and more. New customers can play $5 and get $100 instantly in casino credits from America's top online casino. Boom! The crown is yours.
The time of unreliable injury reports and rest days are over. The playoffs are here, and it's the best time to bet the NBA. Throughout the NBA playoffs, VSiN has daily best bets, analytics reports, and series previews all the way through the NBA Finals. You can also watch our 24/7 video stream, access our betting splits, and get picks sent to your inbox every morning so you can get ahead of any late line movement. To get access to everything VSiN has to offer for the NBA playoffs, become a VSiN Pro subscriber at VSiN.com/pro.
If you didn't catch Follow the Money, here's what you missed.
It's crazy how things have turned, specifically in this Suns T-Wolves series. If you go back to the final Sunday of the regular season, what is it now, a week and a half ago? Suns went to Minnesota, the 1 seed was on the line, and they barbecued the Wolves in Minneapolis.
And talked trash.
Oh, the whole time. And they destroyed them the entire game. Wolves were never really even in that. Well, now 2 games deep into this best-of-7 series, the Wolves are up 2-0, and they have been easily the better side here. This, on paper, I'm not going to call it over with because the Suns can go back and win the next 2 games at home. But the way this is flipped since that final game of the regular season, this looks like a total mismatch when you're watching the games.
Well, it's the number 1 defense in the league for a reason, and they are suffocating Phoenix, and the job they're doing defensively is A+.
Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Heading into 2024, the Big 12 is going to have a lot of new faces, and one of those newbies is the favorite to win the conference. I'm Tim Murray from VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. No, I'm not talking about Coach Prime's Colorado Buffaloes. Utah is the favorite to win the Big 12 at plus 350. Kyle Whittingham entering year number 20 as the head coach of the Utes, 8-5 just a year ago. And Cam Rising, who missed all of last year due to a knee injury, he is back for another season in Salt Lake. Kansas State, they sit at plus 350. Chris Kleiman's squad was 9-4 just last season. They lost Will Howard to Ohio State, but a lot of excitement regarding Avery Johnson, who got the start in their bowl game against NC State. Kansas was able to keep Lance Leipold, and they are 7-1 to win it all. And Arizona, their new head coach Brent Brennan, they're 8-1.
For more, head to VSiN.com.
This isn't your typical betting show. This is the Sports Gambling Podcast live on VSiN.
Forget what you know.
Done.
Because we're rewriting the playbook.
I'm Sean Second the Money Green with my partner in picks, Ryan Real Money Kramer. And every Friday night, we're taking over VSiN, giving our best bets. And of course, talking a ton of trash on everyone that costs us money.
We don't follow trends, we set them.
Bit of a stretch, but we are the Sports Gambling Podcast live here every Friday night, 9 p.m. East, 6 p.m. Pacific on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN senior MLB analyst Adam Burke. Let's face it, between bad managers and umpires like Angel Hernandez, betting on baseball can be brutal. But my daily article is here to help. Every morning, I go through each MLB matchup and give you my best bets of the day. I analyze pitching matchups, study analytics, look at lineups, and even weather reports, all to find value on the baseball slate. My daily article is only available to VSiN Pro subscribers. To become a subscriber, head to VSiN.com/pro today.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Boy, this draft keeps getting better and better. This is the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special.
Speak for yourself.
Michael
I just want a few kind words, Femi. As the great Tony Soprano said, don't wish me happy birthday, just a few kind words is all. 6 quarterbacks in the first 12.
Would you like to share the news at Pick 12 with Denver?
Bo Nix is now a Denver Bronco.
And this is something that you have been on early on in this draft process. We've been talking, you said Sean really likes Bo Nix. He likes what he can get from him. As somebody who watched a lot of college football, I was invested in Bo Nix in the Heisman market.
I was trying to talk you off the shelf.
Yeah, I was like a Bo Nix guy in college.
Bo Nix, by the way, come on. So, first off, I had a great number on him to win Heisman Trophy. He doesn't get there for me. And now I'm like, no way he's going to the first round. Everyone says there's a second round grade on him, and you dashed my hopes again. So.
Where's JVT? Where's my man, JVT?
But I'll be honest, Michael. When I watch Bo Nix, I don't see a guy that's like, hey, this is like a bona fide first-round guy when I watch him. But Sean Payton obviously sees it differently. What do you think Sean sees in Bo Nix?
Sean loves his foot quickness. Sean loves his decision-making. Sean loves his coachability. He'll do what Sean tells him to do on the field. Mm-hmm. He'll be able to orchestrate the offense. He does run the foot. He runs with it really well. Remember at Auburn, he ran with it quite a bit. He can make plays. He's probably, other than Caleb, he's the second-best quarterback on the second play in this draft. When the play breaks down, he's the second best guy down the field. There's no question. There's a lot to like about this guy. I think he just got put into a category. And look, I was telling you not to bet him for the Heisman because it just didn't fit, right? I just felt like the LSU guy was going to trump the Oregon guy. Yeah. But his play was really he throws the ball a lot sideways. That's why the high completions. Got a lot of starts. Remember, Sean Payton is from the Bill Parcells school. He's not drafting a quarterback with 9 starts. He wanted somebody that's seasoned, and also he's coachable. And so now we have 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks, Femi.
You wrote about this on VSiN.com. You said 6 in the first round. You should have said 6 and 12.
I should have. Although I kind of thought there might be a chance that Denver would take 12 and move down. And then this morning when we came in, that Daniel Jeremiah had in his mock that the Rams might pick him at 19. I think that probably made them kind of hesitate, but I think they were locked into this all the way. So it came through.
over 4.5 gets there easy.
Destroyed.
6 quarterbacks.
Destroyed it.
You destroyed it.
By the way,
in fairness to you guys, though, I think in fairness to you guys, what you're doing is using the logic that prevails in most drafts, right? And I think that's pretty much going to stay the same. Like in the trades, we've only seen, one trade so far?
One trade, yep.
Okay, so we know, like, sometimes don't criticize. This just happens to be a unique draft with a lot of teams. And there you are, the Raiders. You've got Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, right? So the Raiders have to take – if I were they paid Christian Wilkins a ton of money. They can't take – I would take and they took Tyree Wilson last year. Latu's better than him. Did they take Dallas Turner? I mean, did they take the corner Mitchell? The Mitchell's a really good player. They could use the corner. They could use an offensive tackle here too.
Yeah, no, we're going to take a live look here at the sportsbook here at Circa as Bo Nix is announced as the draft pick for the Denver Broncos. And I think you got some high fives. You got some people with hands on their faces wondering, how did this happen? This man's draft prop, like once again, similar to Penix, was 32.5, and it was a reasonable price to bet it under.
Well,
you could still get like minus 180, minus 190.
When I first came here, it was 34.5.
Yep.
It was
Plus
34.
Money to the under.
It was 34. There's JVT. Here he is.
Hey. Yeah.
I got JVT.
Team VSiN primetime getting their teeth kicked in.
Maybe he'll come in and give his mea culpa.
We just at the point. Just if the Rams could select Brock Bowers now to salvage tonight, please just allow that to happen, or any tight end. Your reporting was accurate, of course, and the steam and the discussion of Broncos and Bo Nix, it never wavered. It was always, that was the fit. It was just, will he go in the second round? Will they trade back? Will they trade back in? And ultimately, it's 12 and Bo Nix, and here we go.
Here's the thing, too. We have to understand this. Look, we see it through our eyes. Sean Payton has been very good at evaluating quarterbacks, very good. He saw Tony Romo at Eastern Illinois, not because it was from his alma mater, but because it was Tony Romo, and he got him. Remember, it was between Denver. It was between Jim Harbaugh wanted him in Oakland. It was between us and Oakland. It was Denver, and it was the Cowboys, and he got him to go to the Cowboys. And, he wanted Mahomes when Mahomes came out, and he didn't get him. He lost him in that trade. He wasn't losing him in this trade. He wasn't going to lose the player. If you're a Bronco fan, you have to trust that Peyton can coach the quarterback. You have to trust that Peyton can develop the quarterback. If you're a Minnesota Viking fan, you've got to trust that Kevin O'Connell can do that. And I think those two have a better track record of doing this than Alex Van Pelt would have at the New England Patriots with May, right? And Cliff Kingsbury would have with Jaden Daniels at 2, right? You got to say that. Now, Kingsbury took Murray and moved around, but Murray's limited in the pocket. We know that. So, look, I think that's the case. Now, Penix, who took Bowers at 13? Bowers just went 13.
Las Vegas. He's coming here. Come down to the Circa, Brock Bowers.
Didn't they just take Michael Mayer with a second-round pick last year?
They took Michael Mayer. And maybe this is a little bit, Michael, you can speak to this. When teams kind of have their boards, and you always talk about the horizontal board versus the vertical board there, is Bowers the guy that said, hey, this is the best player on our board. We're wiped out on the quarterbacks. Let's just take him, even though we already took Michael Mayer last year.
I think Bowers is a really good fit for them because they put Michael Mayer on the line. So Michael Mayers is the Y, and Bowers is the F. So they're going to be a 12-personnel team. Devontae Adams on the outside, so you got to roll the coverage to him, and they've got Jacoby Myers on the other side. So they're going to be a 12 team. They got the running back situation. Obviously, they like their backs. Obviously, they let Jacobs go. But to me, it comes down to who's throwing them the ball. Is it Gardner Minshew? See, here's the biggest issue with Gardner Minshew. They have no guards. And Gardner Minshew's 6 feet tall. And if you pressure Gardner Minshew inside, then you've got real issues. And I don't see the Raiders being at a point luxury-wise to take a tight end. Their offensive line is depleted. They don't have an offensive line. But I think at the end of the day, they just felt like he was probably too good of a player to pass up. Interesting now what the Rams do.
Yep, the Rams right now, they're sitting at pick 18. That was a team I think a lot of people had linked with Brock Bowers. They go ahead and miss out on him because the Raiders take him at 13th overall. And I'm just sitting back curious thinking, when are we going to get a defender? The New Orleans Saints, a lot of people talk about offensive line.
Offensive line. They were like minus 400 to get an offensive lineman.
Indianapolis has been linked to some pass catchers, but I mean, maybe they go like a defender.
They've been linked to Bowers a lot.
Yeah, maybe Mike McDonald in his first year in Seattle gets a defender to kind of kickstart that.
I don't know how
defense.
the Raiders don't take the corner. Like, if you don't take the offensive lineman, go ahead. I'm sorry, Elliot.
Brock Bowers over to the Las Vegas Raiders now.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know how the Raiders didn't take a corner. I mean, they need a corner badly. And so, they don't take the corner. But, look, they got a really good player. And Michael Mayer's a good player. Mm-hmm. They got two good players that can control the middle of the field. I think it's kind of an interesting thing. But, again, if Gardner Minshew gets hurt, this team's picking in the top 5 next year.
Yeah. And this regime, maybe they can survive that. I mean, it's a new regime. Telesco in year 1. Pierce now the official permanent head coach for them in his first year. But, I mean, there's still – I look at the
quarterback class next year, by the way. Early. I mean, it's early. We didn't think about Jaden Daniels being a number 2 overall pick a year ago.
Bo Nix being 12th overall.
That's true. But we knew Caleb. We knew Drake Maye. Yep. And right now it's Quinn Ewers. It's Carson Beck at Georgia. Those are kind of the 2 names that you're talking about. Shador Sanders at Colorado. So
he'll only go to certain teams, so you can't be careful with that.
Apparently, but
that'll be a fun draft process.
I mean, Brock Bowers he is elite in the slot too. So I mean, like you said, it seems like a lot of 12.
They're going to be a 12 team.
A lot of 12 personnel.
And look, when you're a 12 team, that's really a difficult challenge if you're a 12 team that can run the ball. Because Zaire White, the running back, is going to run hard, okay? So when you're a 12 team, you've got to be able to get the defense to play base against you, because that allows you to then have an advantage in the passing game. It makes it easier for the quarterback. If they can do what they do against the great Falcons under the direction of Super Bowl winning Terry Fontenot,
rise up,
where Kyle Pitts, they have no regard for his blocking whatsoever, right? They just play nickel to Pitts. You gain no advantage.
It's Brock Bowers, at least from watching college football. I mean, to me, it was him and Harrison as the best guys in college football the last 3 years. Like, those guys were terrific. So you understand why they make the pick there, but I'm a little worried at quarterback for this Las Vegas Raiders team. I'm taking a look right now at the offensive lineman because New Orleans is on the board. I think a lot of people have linked the Saints with an O-lineman. Mims from Georgia is still out there. Fuaga is out there. Fautanu out of Washington, he's still out there. Guyton from Oklahoma. Michael, do you think that this ends up being O-line for New Orleans, or could they go in another direction? Because I'm assuming that the Saints didn't think that all the defenders were going to be at their disposal.
Right.
Sitting at 14.
I think the Saints are always about offensive and defensive linemen. That's Mickey Loomis. That's been his whole mantra, his whole career. And I think he could easily go Murphy as the 3 technique. He could go, Dallas Turner if he thinks he's a good edge rusher. He could go Latu if he's passed him on that. So I think there's 1,000 ways he could go up into the trenches. I really do.
There was a lot of, from the betting standpoint, right? Byron Murphy, ton of steam for him to go top 10. Brock Bowers, his over-under goes under now. It was 11.5, 12.5. That got heavily juiced to the under. So it's really been fascinating. Graham Barton, the inside guard / center, he was a guy that got a lot of movement.
When does Zach Wilson request a trade?
Well, he enjoyed being Aaron Rodgers' backup, so
I'll get that clipboard. I got it.
Thank you for your service, Zach. This is what the New York Jets tweeted out earlier.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Phil A.D.'s coming in the room. Here we go.
All right, we'll be back on the other side. The draft's rolling along here on VSiN.
If you didn't catch Follow the Money, here's what you missed.
Listen, several people in the audience said there should be a ton of big tickets out there. Futures. Minnesota, OKC.
Oh, yes.
Dallas, all this stuff. There should be huge tickets out. Philadelphia, another one. They're in trouble. But you could have got the Sixers at a big price. It's not hard to envision a scenario that they're in the conference finals. Minnesota was a huge price. So was OKC. I got Dallas 30-1 not that long ago.
Yeah. If we get a second round matchup, Denver, Minnesota, Denver with home court, I can't wait to see what that series price is going to be. Because I have a number in my head, and if Minnesota is that on the plus side, it's going to be an automatic grab for me. But we have to have it get here first.
Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
VSiN is thrilled to introduce a new VSiN.com tailor-made to the evolved needs of today's sports bettors. Our upgraded navigation streamlines your journey, allowing you to swiftly access articles, videos, and podcasts. Whether you're tuning in live or catching up on your favorite shows, everything is just a click away. VSiN.com guarantees a fluid and responsive experience across all devices, ensuring you stay connected wherever you are. We have enhanced tools such as our betting splits and expert picks, and introduce innovative features like parlay and odds calculators, all designed to make you a sharper bettor. Our How to Bet section is perfect for beginners covering the fundamentals, while seasoned bettors can delve into our advanced betting strategies for the competitive edge you've been looking for. Sign up for free on VSiN.com or become a VSiN Pro subscriber, where you can unlock unlimited access to every tool, expert picks, and insight that make VSiN the sports betting network.
At VSiN, we've got you covered before, during, and after every game. Jumpstart your game day with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN Primetime at 6 Eastern. They'll get you ready before the first tip, puck drop, and pitch, ensuring you're ahead of the game. Then stay in the loop during all the action with the Greg Peterson Experience at 9. And as the night wraps up, join Matt Humans and Wes Reynolds on VSiN Tonight at 11, giving you the first look at tomorrow's lines to get an edge on the next day's bets. All this and more, only on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Elevate your sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
The time of unreliable injury reports and rest days are over. The playoffs are here, and it's the best time to bet the NBA. Throughout the NBA playoffs, VSiN has daily best bets, analytics reports, and series previews all the way through the NBA Finals. You can also watch our 24/7 video stream, access our betting splits, and get picks sent to your inbox every morning so you can get ahead of any late line movement. To get access to everything VSiN has to offer for the NBA playoffs, become a VSiN Pro subscriber at VSiN.com/pro.
If you think about betting football all year round, the Lombardi Line on VSiN is the perfect show for you. 7 days a week, you can watch and listen to the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. He gives his honest opinions on personnel signings, draft decisions, and every offseason move to help you as a bettor. Catch the show weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern and on weekends at 10 a.m. Eastern. The Lombardi Line, 7 days a week, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Welcome back. This is the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. Femi Abebefe, Michael Lombardi, Tim Murray hanging out here at the Circa Resort and Casino. The pick is in down by the Bayou for the New Orleans Saints, and the mock drafts, the betting market, it was all right. They're going offensive line, Taliese Fuaga, the offensive tackle out of Oregon State.
And we finally got a defensive player. Elliot, are you sitting down in the back room? Elliot is our Indianapolis Colt expert.
At number 15 is going to be our first
number
official.
15, the first defensive lineman picked, and you got to stand up and applaud. Latua will be rushing the edge off there.
Let's go.
Great pick for the Colts. They passed him on the physical. This is, to me, between he and Murphy, were the two best defensive players in the draft. And I'm sure the Colts probably considered Murphy, but with Buckner inside and they've signed McMillan, they feel like they've got enough physicality in there. But this is a huge pick for them because this is a really good rusher. This guy gives the Colts something they need because, look, if you're going down this Gus Bradley road, and Elliott's going down it, right, and he loves going down this Gus Bradley road because he makes everybody happy, you got to rush the passer. And so you got to love the pick here because he can come and rush the passer. He plays with power, and obviously they passed him on the physical, which means that his neck is going to be okay. And I think it's a great pick for the Colts because that's what they need.
If there were no concerns about the neck and the medical with him, does he go top 10?
He's better than Tyree Wilson last year. This kid plays with way more power than Wilson. Way more power than Wilson. Oh. You know, I couldn't say Murphy's better than Jalen Carter. I couldn't say that. I mean, you watched him. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's so interesting about Latu, who's going to be the selection at 15 here, is you saw at least the betting market have just serious questions about the injuries. And ultimately, as you alluded to, majority of teams clearly passed him medically. And for him to be the first defensive player off the board, we saw a lot of pushback on Turner. You know, he was an odds-on favorite to be the first defensive player selected. And then we saw Latu movement. We saw Murphy's movement. And ultimately, Latu, I believe, went off as the second favorite to be the first defensive player selected. But he was an absolute stud at UCLA. And I think the only reason he got dinged, Michael, was because of the neck.
No question. The neck. He was hard to block.
Right.
And he was hard to block when he was at Washington.
Yep.
He's been hard to block everywhere he's been. It's a great pick for the Colts, and they're fortunate enough to have their pick of the defensive litter.
Yeah.
Seriously, they got the first defensive player. They can't be, it's hard to at 15. Yep. Look, I know I'm old school, and the game changes all the time. But at the end of the day, you got to stop somebody on defense. The Miami Dolphins proved you can't win with offense. The Rams proved you couldn't win with offense, right? I mean, you're going to have to win with defense. At some point, you're going to need a key stop. The Chiefs have done it. The 49ers, their downfall wasn't their offense. It was their defense not getting the stop in the red zone. So, all this offensive weaponry is wonderful, but if you can't stop anybody, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, Jim Harbaugh said it. He said football still comes down to blocking and tackling. Yeah. Like, you got to still be physical. You got to be able to win in the trenches. And for the Colts, they're adding to that defensive front. That prior to this pick, it was Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam as their edge rushers. Now they're adding Laiatu Latu. If he's able to stay healthy, that's a big boost for the Indianapolis Colts in that division where they're trying to bring down C.J. Stroud and what he was able to do with that Houston Texans offense just a year ago. So the pick is in for the Indianapolis Colts. Seattle Seahawks now on the clock here. And it's John Schneider, of course, calling the shots. But Mike Macdonald, the new head coach there, the youngster coming out of Baltimore. I'm curious if they give Macdonald some new pieces or if maybe Seattle tries to go with an offensive player, maybe to shore up an offensive line.
Well, here's what I will say. I don't know what the pick will be because John is very good. John could give one instant. He could care less what the mocks think.
Oh, yeah.
He could care less.
Last year, right? Devin Witherspoon going
the year before. The year before
Jordan
when they
Brooks, all these.
He don't give a crap. He's going with what he
Bruce
thinks.
Irvin back in the day.
He's going with what he thinks. Now he's got a chance to get another corner in Mitchell. He's got a chance. I mean, to me, he should take Murphy. Knowing John, now I know he's got Daquan Jones in there to play 3 technique, but you can never have enough good defensive tackles. If John, to me, he should take the Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy and Arnold kind of went back and forth in the betting market, but Murphy always remained the favorite, the corner out of Toledo, to be the top cornerback selected.
Yeah, now it's going to be a really interesting pick here because, like, to Michael's point, like having covered that team, we always tried to project what the Seahawks might do, and it was never accurate because John Schneider marches to his own beat. And I think we could see something creative here for the Seattle Seahawks at 16. Once again, though, we talked about how we've sent so many defenders. Adam Schefter tweeted this out. He said, this is the record for most offensive players drafted. Previously was 7 straight to start a draft. Wow. That was back in 2021. I mean, we didn't get a defender until 15 here this year.
But in fairness, look, when I have my board here, I had 12. I have only 12 defensive players in the first round, and so everybody does their board 1A, 1B, 1C, and of those 12, I had 5 at 1C, which means they're borderline second-round picks. So basically, there was really only seven legitimate first-round players, and the first one just went off the board. So I think it makes some sense here that it does because this has not been a very good defensive draft.
Yeah, and it's been talked about throughout this process, and now it's come to fruition here on draft night where the offensive guys have been the big headliners. But we're getting a defender with the Indianapolis Colts and Laiatu Latu here. So the Seattle Seahawks are on the clock right now. The O-lineman, it feels like the O-line run. I mean, we just saw the Saints go ahead and take Fuaga out of Oregon State. But I'm curious to see if we get another
4 so
one.
far. So we saw Alt went 5 to the Chargers.
Latham.
Then it was JC Latham 7 to the Titans. Olu Fashanu, Jets traded back at 11, and then we just saw Fuaga, the tackle out of Oregon State, go. So, yeah, 4 so far. Over-under was 9.5. Juiced pretty heavily to the over, so we'll see if we start to see a run. We haven't seen the guard out of Washington selected yet. He's thought to be ready to go, Troy Fashanu. So, it'll be fascinating to see. And also the kid out of Duke who had a lot of late love in the betting market as well.
You're talking about Brand. I mean, he's got a hot commodity.
Graham Barton.
Yeah, the guards. I mean,
a lot of people linking him to Pittsburgh.
A lot of people linking him to Pittsburgh and Dallas. I mean, that's the combination, and I think, to me, they need that.
Yeah, no, the Cowboys need offensive line for sure. So as a fan of that team, it's like they lost 2 starters, and they've yet to address it so far this offseason. So we got the Seahawks that are on the board right now. They're on the clock. Jacksonville after that, Cincinnati, then the Rams, who will be making their first first-round pick since Jared Goff back in 2016. It's been a while for the Los Angeles Rams. Sean McVay has never had a first-round pick. He finally has one now. Well, we got to make sure they don't trade the pick for something between now and then, but the Rams are going to be making their selection. Then we'll have the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins. The biggest surprise of this draft, I mean, it has to be the Michael Penix at 8 up until this point. But outside of that, has there been anything that's shocked you guys or surprised you guys here that so far
hasn't
in this
shocked
draft?
him?
I mean,
he was all over it.
He was all over the quarterbacks. but outside of the quarterbacks, like Penix aside in the 60, like anything that sort of surprised you so far in this draft through 15 picks?
I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, but I just never bought the Dallas Turner was the best defensive player in the draft. I never bought that silly thing in all the mocks. Just keep putting them. To me, Dallas Turner was the pony. You know what I mean by that? That's the horse that everybody just lets lead the race, the pony. And so he became the popular guy every team gave out as the mock. You never want to be the pony in a draft. Like there's always one guy who's in everybody's mock at one team, and that's the pony in the mock because the teams don't want to give away a name, so they'll just say, "Well, what do you have for us?" "Oh, we have Dallas Turner." "Okay, yeah, that's probably right." And it just all of a sudden the lie just becomes more and more and more, and then becomes fact after 4 or 5. Everybody has Dallas Turner. You know, now whoever picks Dallas Turner, you're guaranteed to get an A in the draft.
Yep.
You're guaranteed to get an A. You got incredible value. You got unbelievable value.
Are we going to see an F for the Falcons draft?
No. Well, no, because Kaiser Sose McKay will be working them. He'll be working it, and so will Fontenot. So will three Super Bowl Fontenot. You know, I mean, just ask yourself this question: what other team would pay $190 million and then go draft a quarterback 8th overall? Now, look, I get this, okay, and I will say this sincerely: if they picked Michael Penix at 28 and that's where they were picking, I'd say, okay, I got it. You're getting value. You got to do it. It's the same thing. Yeah. But when you use a top 10 pick for a luxury item that you can't use because you got a quarterback you just gave 190, like, we're not hockey. We can't run shifts out there. We can't have one line come in and run another line. Like, it's hard. I think Penix is a good player. He's 24 years old. By the time he starts, he'll be 27.
It's beyond me, but I mean, I guess if he ends up playing well 3-4 years down the line, maybe we'll all forget about this. But I mean, we'll never forget about how they paid Kirk Cousins all that money and drafted his replacement like a month later. Tim, you're about to leave us. Any final thoughts from you so far through this draft, and what are you looking forward to in the back half of this first round?
Yeah, I'm curious as the offensive linemen start to go, but I mean, I think Brock Bowers falling to 13 wasn't stunning, but the fact that the Raiders were the selection was. They traded up to get Michael Mayer last year in the second round, and I know they're a different tight end, but it was a bit odd to me to see that they need a corner.
And they can't block anybody, Tim. They have no offensive linemen. I mean, Mumford's the left tackle. I mean, you can't block over there. Who's blocking Chris Jones? This would drive Al Davis crazy. How do we match up to Chris Jones? We don't have anybody. They know that they signed James back. They didn't want to sign James back. They signed him back. You know, they wanted to put the other kid, Parham, at center. Parham can't play guard.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Tim, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, Tim.
For these couple of hours, man. This was a lot of fun.
Good hit, sir.
The curveballs. Matt Youmans will join us next to start hour number 3 as we get into the second half of the first round here on the GM Shuffle.
The 82-game preseason is in the books, and it's finally time for the real season. Don't miss out on any of the NBA playoff action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code VSiN. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/bball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. If you didn't catch Follow the Money, here's what you missed.
You know, it's crazy how things have turned, specifically in this Suns T-Wolves series. If you go back to the final Sunday of the regular season, what is it now, a week and a half ago? Suns went to Minnesota, the 1 seed was on the line, and they barbecued the Wolves in Minneapolis.
And talked trash.
Oh, the whole time. And they destroyed them the entire game. Wolves were never really even in that. Well, now 2 games deep into this best-of-7 series, the Wolves are up 2-0, and they have been easily the better side here. This, on paper, I'm not going to call it over with because the Suns can go back and win the next 2 games at home. But the way this has flipped since that final game of the regular season, this looks like a total mismatch when you're watching the games.
Well, it's the number 1 defense in the league for a reason, and they are suffocating Phoenix, and the job they're doing defensively is A+.
Follow the money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
If there's one thing we know about the NFL, it's that it's 24/7, 365. So naturally, no better time than the present to look at the Super Bowl odds for next season. Hi, I'm Stormy Bonantoni with VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The 2-time defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs recently leapfrogged the 49ers on the odds board and are a plus 550 favorite to be the first team in NFL history to three-peat. San Francisco's not far behind, though, at 6-1 odds to avenge their heartbreaking overtime loss to KC in Super Bowl 58. Baltimore's the third shot on the board. The Ravens saw their odds shorten slightly to 9-1 after welcoming King Henry. Meanwhile, Buffalo's odds have lengthened from 10-1 to 12-1 following the departure of Stephon Diggs to Houston. While the Lions stood pat at 12-1, a few NFC teams saw their odds shift through free agency as well. The Eagles are now 17-1 after adding Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff. And how about the Falcons, whose odds shifted significantly from 35-1 to 22-1 with Kirk Cousins?
For more, head to VSiN.com.
VSiN is thrilled to introduce a new VSiN.com tailor-made to the evolved needs of today's sports bettors. Our upgraded navigation streamlines your journey, allowing you to swiftly access articles, videos, and podcasts. Whether you're tuning in live or catching up on your favorite shows, everything is just a click away. VSiN.com guarantees a fluid and responsive experience across all devices, ensuring you stay connected wherever you are. We have enhanced tools such as our betting splits and expert picks, and introduce innovative features like parlay and odds calculators, all designed to make you a sharper bettor. Our How to Bet section is perfect for beginners, covering the fundamentals, while seasoned bettors can delve into our advanced betting strategies for the competitive edge you've been looking for. Sign up for free on VSiN.com or become a VSiN Pro subscriber, where you can unlock unlimited access to every tool, expert picks, and insight that make VSiN the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network. You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Welcome back. This is the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. Femi Abebefe, Michael Lombardi, former NFL front office executive, and now we are joined by our buddy Matt Youmans, host of VSiN Tonight. He'll be carrying us at the top of next hour with Wes Reynolds here as we wrap up the NFL Draft. Matt, thanks for coming in, man. We appreciate you. We're hanging out for the next hour. What has surprised you the most so far here through this first round of the first half, I should say, of the first round?
I don't know if it should be a surprise that the Atlanta Falcons are the dumbest organization in the league, but what the Falcons did certainly surprising in terms of taking Michael Penix, number 8. I mean, I'll start here. I think it's a pretty obvious starting point. You guarantee a quarterback off an Achilles injury $90 million, and you say, okay, we're going to draft another quarterback with an injury history, lengthy injury history, even though I like Michael Penix. You're going to draft him number 8? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And this comes on the heels of an offseason where they interviewed Bill Belichick, and he didn't finish in their top 3 to be head coach. It's dumb and dumber from the Atlanta Falcons. As far as this draft goes, it's fantasy football. Nobody wants a defensive player. What the hell is going on here? It's all 6 quarterbacks in the top 12. Sean Payton has lost his mind. You take Bo Nix at number 12. There is no value in taking Bo Nix at number 12. So I could go on and on here, but I think you've seen a little bit of a shift in the NFL away from the edge rushers and defensive players here in this draft, and maybe that's because of the rules.
Well,
Michael,
we just got a second
to tackle anymore.
Seattle took Brian Murphy, which was a great pick for them. They get another 3 technique to go along with Draymond Jones and Jared Reed. But let's go back to Atlanta. When they signed Cousins, were you enticed to bet their over win total?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, I do like the Falcons, a lot of the young talent on both sides of the ball, but still, you got an older quarterback. who you don't know if he's going to hold up. And, no, I was not going to race to the window about the Falcons, even though I kind of like him. I'm not fading the Falcons, let's put it that way.
And so now this is another year where they have the 8th pick overall in the draft, and they use it on a luxury item.
Right.
Like, you're talking about, like, you have a Rolex and you buy another Rolex. Like, which one are you going to wear? Like, are you going to wait for one to go out of style? Like, I don't understand. Like
Femi, he's got 3 sports cars in the garage.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you drive? I get it, but like, it makes it makes no sense. And then what I love the best is that Raheem Morris really loved him. Well, what are you paying Fontenot all this money for if Raheem liked him? Like, seriously, what are you paying him all this money for? I find that hard to believe. I really did. That one, to me, and here's what I would say. If Atlanta picked him at 28, would you have a problem with it?
No.
I wouldn't have a problem with it at 28.
See, you have to approach it. You've been in the GM chair. You have to approach it like an advantage gambler. You have to get value for the selection where you're picking, right?
Right.
Is there any value in taking Michael Penix at number 8? No chance. No chance. Bo Nix at 12? No, this doesn't
and they
make
can't
any
rush
sense
the
at all.
passer, Matt.
Yeah.
Here's what
There's
I do
so many
know.
other needs on your roster.
And I said this all through I said this on the GM Shuffle, and I've said it on the show. I knew Atlanta worked out and spent a lot of times on every quarterback. We talked about that, Femi. But I thought it was the Spencer Rattler group, the Michael Pratt group, right? I thought it was that group. I didn't think it was going to be this group, you know?
Now you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, but you're going to waste
two or
three years of it because he's not going to play.
And here's the other thing. Nobody understands this. I don't know if they've mentioned it. Kirk Cousins has a no-trade clause. Like, you can't get rid of him. Like, it is like, okay, why don't we'll trade you to somewhere else. Like, you can't. You know, you're going to have to keep Michael Penix. Michael Penix is going to be like Cameron's car in Ferris Bueller. It's going to have to stay in the garage, right? And the old man's not going to let you drive it.
Yeah, and then when you factor in his age, that's the biggest thing. Because like we saw the Green Bay Packers do it with Jordan Love. It's like, okay, we have Rodgers, but we're going to draft Love, and
They drafted him in the
20s. They drafted him in the 20s, and he was also 21 years old. Yeah. He wasn't 24 years old like Michael Penix Jr.
We just had another trade, our second trade.
Oh, got a second trade of the night.
Minnesota just traded up now.
Hello.
Yep, Minnesota just traded up here. Who was I don't have
that
on
was
who's on the clock here?
Let me take a look here at my draft order real quick because
I think Minnesota probably traded up. Here's what I think Minnesota did.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville was supposed to take a corner, but Minnesota, knowing Brian Flores, I wouldn't be surprised if they took a corner here. And I think they would take Mitchell here. I think he knows. See, it would surprise me if he took the Alabama corners because the Alabama corners are not great man-to-man corners. They're not. Then Nick didn't want to play man-to-man with those corners. Why should have Brian? But it'll be interesting to see what the decision is here.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm assuming that Flores has been pounding the table for more defenders because I mean,
he needs a corner badly. He needs a corner.
They attacked it and they got some edge rushers. They got some linebackers.
Dallas Turner's the pick. Another rusher.
Dallas Turner.
I can't argue with that pick though.
Yeah, I mean, they got value for him, and they get another rusher to go along with Grenard. You know, and they took Van Ginkel from Miami as an outside back. They're going to be able to rush the passer a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, they need a corner too. I would have taken Mitchell over Turner, but I look. You're never going to get me to disagree with somebody taking a front seven player. I mean, that's where I think the game's won.
All the good teams are able to get after the quarterbacks. That's how you got to be able to play defense in today's NFL. I want to go back to Byron Murphy, though, because, Michael, I know this is the guy that I think is probably been your favorite defender in this entire draft class. Yeah. What are the Seahawks getting with their pick at 16?
Well, they get a disruptive inside player. They get a guy who can disrupt the game inside, who can create problems for your guards. You know, like let's take the Raiders. Their guard situation, they have Parham, who's not a guard. He's a center. They move him to guard because they play James. They just signed James to a contract. They just signed Cody Whitehair from the Bears, who couldn't play for the Bears. They have no guards inside. So when you have Gardner Minshew at 6 feet at quarterback and you can't block the three technique of the opponent team, and you got Chris Jones over there and you can't block him, you know, it becomes a real issue. And so you've got to fortify the inside of your line. And I think what Seattle did, Seattle's offense is good. Now, look, they got the 2 tackles that were hurt last year. You know, they can fix that, but now he gets a 3 technique. And last year we saw McDonald with the 3 technique, you know, and he ended up making a huge amount of money in free agency this year. So I think it's a great pick for I like Seattle. I like Seattle on their over total. I think Seattle's going to be a good team this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure defensively they're going to be a little bit better than what we've seen in the past.
They're going to be way better.
Yeah.
They're going to be way better. They're going to be. This isn't disrespectful to Pete, but they're going to be better coached because I'm not sure Clint Holmes was of the same level as McDonald.
Mike Macdonald was lauded as well. He was one of the best defensive minds, and I think one of the reasons why he got the job was the success he had against that Shanahan offense and what they've been able to do against the teams like the Lions, the Niners, and the Rams, and all those teams. So it'll be a new day in Seattle with Mike Macdonald as the head coach, as the Minnesota Vikings making their selection, and it is Dallas Turner, the edge out of Alabama. This was a guy that Matt, we talked about how the mock drafts always said, oh, Dallas Turner is going to be the first guy selected. He wasn't. It was Laiatu Latu at 15 to the Indianapolis Colts here. But you think this is pretty solid value for a guy that, at least at one point in the process, on the outside, was thought of as someone who could potentially be a top 10 pick?
Yeah, no question. I actually had Dallas Turner going to the Falcons at number 8.
Why would they take a defensive player, Matt? Come on,
You're
stop
asking too
being
much of them.
logical,
It's crazy.
please. Will you
You're asking
stop,
too much.
Matt?
They should.
Look, they don't need. They can rush the passer. They're going to count to 3 Mississippi and go.
It's obvious they needed another quarterback, though, so they passed on Dallas Turner. No, I actually like what the Vikings did here. Now, I don't understand. Michael, explain this. Did the Vikings not want to get jumped by the Broncos? Why would you trade away a pick to move up one spot to take J.J. McCarthy?
We talked about it, Matt. I think what was happening was there was probably some other team trying to trade up to get J.J. McCarthy.
You think it was the Broncos?
No, I think the Broncos were taking Nix all along. I think it could have been the Raiders, or it could have been the Rams. We're going to find out who it was, but I think it was. So what you do in a draft room when you're getting so close to your pick and you're worried about getting jumped is you call the team to freeze the pick. So you call the team and say, hey, look, do you want to trade the pick? They'll say to you, well, we have something else on the table. Well, we'll flip with you. What it's going to take to flip? You're going to get your guy anyway. Why don't you just flip with us? You don't want to go back that far. Well, it's going to take this. And then you got to call the bluff. You got to say, okay, either I do it or I don't. And, somebody might say, well, we can't do that. That's too much. And then if they pick your guy in front of you, it's not too much. You screwed up. So I think that's what happened. You're trying to freeze the pick. If they say to you on the phone, well, we got a really good offer, we're going to take it, then you got to really hurry. Or if they're kind of slow playing it, you get a sense of it. But freezing the pick helps you understand if somebody's trying to jump you. It happens in all the second and the third rounds more because there's only 5 minutes and you got to make quick decisions. You got to really do it.
Yeah, I think so far the Vikings done a pretty good job. That's we talk about as a gambler, you talk about value sometimes, and that's an overused word, but there is. It's pertinent to talk about it because in Dallas Turner at number 17, I think that's a really valuable pick for the Vikings. Like Michael said, I'm all for adding front 7 guys and edge rushers. And, if you need a corner, you can get one a little bit later. Look, I don't think any of these corners at the top of this class are all that great. So if you want to pass and get a corner in the second round, you can do that. From a betting perspective, Femi, too, I do want to talk about a couple things. So far, it's been a pretty good betting draft for me with Joe Alt going number 5 to the Chargers at about 5-1 odds. J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings at plus money and over 5.5 at plus money, and the quarterbacks over 4.5. The one thing the betting market nailed was the quarterbacks over 4.5, and he wrote about this 2 days ago. So hopefully, it's not always square money when you're betting a popular prop over. Yeah. There was a lot of sharp money on the quarterback prop over 4.5.
Yeah, and people in the league clearly like these quarterbacks.
Yeah, they did.
6 in the first 12
When
picks.
I walked in here today, Matt, I told everybody there could be 6 picked in the first 12. Somebody in the league told me that, and I, and nobody really, it's kind of hard to believe because you go back on past history, but at the end of the day, you have to throw out past history because these teams are so desperate. The team that's left without a chair is the Raiders. Every other team that wanted a quarterback got a quarterback. The Raiders didn't. They got Gardner Minshew and they got Aiden O'Connell. And they have no offensive line. So, the Raiders are going to be picking here unless they shut people out defensively, which is hard to do. But they're going to be picking here because who's getting the ball? We saw Gardner Minshew. It doesn't matter. You got to protect him. He can't carry a team. And we saw Aiden O'Connell. He couldn't score 3 points against the Vikings.
Well, they have the Mahomes rules. So, it helps out. Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, though, right now at pick 18. Interesting offseason for Cincinnati. T. Higgins started off with the request of a trade, and then we also had Trey Hendrickson recently now requesting a trade as the pick is now in. We'll let you guys know who that pick is on the other side. We're up against it here on the break here, but the Bengals at 18 have made their selection. We'll break it all down here on the GM Shuffle on the other side.
If you didn't catch Follow the Money, here's what you missed.
What'd you think of Maxey getting most improved? Guy scored 20 a game last year.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem.
I don't understand this. This is completely backwards.
Well, okay.
It's like John Moran part 2. That was a good player.
Yeah, answer your question with another question. Don't you think there needs to be more fine print for this award? It seems like they...
I think it's common sense should prevail. But
it doesn't.
That doesn't fit. Kobe White, Jalen Williams, who wasn't even a finalist, that's most improved.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, a guy who averages 20 a game, if he bumps it up to like 32 or 30, okay, but he went from 20 to 25. What did Kobe White go?
Kobe White went from 9 to 19.
That's most improved.
Follow the money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This isn't your typical betting show. This is the Sports Gambling Podcast live on VSiN.
Forget what you know.
Done.
Because we're rewriting the playbook.
I'm Sean Second the Money Green with my partner in picks, Ryan Real Money Kramer. And every Friday night, we're taking over VSiN, giving our best bets. And of course, talking a ton of trash on everyone that costs us money.
We don't follow trends, we set them.
Bit of a stretch, but we are the Sports Gambling Podcast live here every Friday night, 9 p.m. East, 6 p.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Remember when spring break was the most fun you could ever imagine? Well, imagine it again! DraftKings Casino presents Spring Break Rewind! Soak up games exclusive to DK brands like Rocket, plus custom takes on favorites like Blackjack, slots, and more. New customers can play $5 and get $100 instantly in casino credits from America's top online casino. Boom! The crown is yours.
Coming up Friday on Follow the Money, we recap first round of the NFL Draft and look ahead to Friday's draft. Matt Humans with his mock and what transpired. Michael Lombardi recaps everything in hockey and NBA playoffs with Jonathan Davis and Aaron Rennie. Follow the Money weekday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We're all about giving our players new and exciting ways to get in on the action. With my stat sheet, you can check out your play history and performance over time to make sure you're always playing within your means. Because when it comes to betting, it's more fun when it's for fun. The crown is yours.
The NHL playoffs are finally here.
Let's do that hockey.
And the best way to bet the hockey playoffs is to become a VSiN Pro subscriber. Only VSiN Pro subscribers get daily NHL picks and articles from our VSiN hockey experts. You'll also get access to NHL betting splits and betting tools to help you all the way through the Stanley Cup final. Whether you're a hockey expert or catching up to bet the playoffs, VSiN is here to help. Head to vsin.com/pro to become a subscriber today.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
We continue to roll along here on the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. Femi Abebefe, Michael Lombardi, Matt Humans hanging out here at the Circa Resort and Casino. The pick is in, and it is Amarius Mims for the Cincinnati Bengals, offensive tackle out of Georgia. So maybe we start to see that O-line run start to kick back up again as the Bengals have been trying to figure out how to protect Joe Burrow for quite some time.
Look, they signed Trent Brown to a really cheap contract. Trent Brown could solve a lot of problems if he wants to play, and that's not always the case. He doesn't always want to play. And he's kind of always a little bit out of shape and a little lackadaisical. That's been this problem with his career. He could be one of the best left tackles in all of football, but that's not always the case. Now, they got Orlando Brown over there at left tackle. So this gives them an opportunity to put another guy behind Trent Brown and see what they can do. And look, for all these teams that want to draft all these receivers, the Bengals, take great pride in drafting Chase. I get that. But the reality of it is Burrow's been hurt 2 of the last 3 years. They can't, and thank God he's a tough guy, right, Matt? I mean, because he gets the crap beat out of him. I mean, they don't protect him worth a darn.
No, that's true. And actually, maybe the Bengals will go for a quarterback here in case Joe Burrow gets injured again. Just kidding.
Take a page out of the Atlanta Falcons playbook, maybe. Pay your guy, then draft his replacement.
One thing, Michael, I'm interested in your draft philosophy because I don't like taking corners. I don't like taking wide receivers in the top 10 unless it's a really special player. This guy's going to be a Pro Bowler. I thought the year the Lions took Jeff Okudah, number 3, it was one of the dumbest picks I've ever seen.
Yep.
And, we don't see any corners, obviously, going early in this draft, but a bunch of wide receivers early.
Right. Well, the receiver to me is doesn't make like why did the Bears would take a receiver and not Byron Murphy? I have no idea.
I mocked Byron Murphy to the Bears. I
don't understand it. I mean,
you got a 300-pound run stopper in the middle of that Bears defensive line. Why do you need another wide receiver and get one in the second round?
Of course you could.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that nobody mentions. I'm sure none of these broadcasts have mentioned them. The top 3 paid receivers in all of football today, and now the top 4 with A.J. Brown, second-round pick A.J. Brown. St. Brown, a fourth-round pick. Cooper Kupp, a third-round pick, right? Tyreek Hill, a fifth-round pick. Like, everybody's getting them. Would you let me ask you this question.
How about Devontae Adams, second-round pick?
Right. Would you trade Christian Watson for Drake London?
No.
Of course you wouldn't. Of course you would. They got Watson in the second, and London's the 16th pick, another luxury item for them. Mm-hmm. They must have more Rolexes in their drawer. The Falcons. What watch am I going to wear tonight? Like, what am I going to wear? Like, I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm still stunned by it. Most of the league, I'm getting texts from people in the league. What are they doing? And then what do we find out? That they called Cousins up right on the pick, and he was stunned.
He was stunned. It's like if you're Kirk Cousins, you were wondering like, why would you give me all this money?
I got a no trade clause. I mean, like you can't even trade me. You're stuck with me.
I think he's got $90 million guaranteed in that
regardless
contract.
Of what happens. Right. He's walking away with Arthur Blank's $90 million. But again, Belichick wasn't qualified to be in the top 3 of their coaching searches.
Belichick didn't make the top 3, but Raheem Morris, okay.
They got a few Mensa members over there at the Atlanta Falcons. The Los Angeles Rams now on the clock. First time in the first round since 2016 when they took Jared Goff #1 overall. We all thought that the Rams were going to look at offense, and they were rumored to maybe potentially trade up. They ended up not trading up. They're sitting here at 19 on the clock with a few minutes left to go. Which direction do you think they go? Do they go with a pass catcher?
I would say they take a corner. I would think they take a corner. I mean, because that's – look, they've done a lot of work on their offensive line. I can't see them taking a pass catcher. I mean, they found –
everybody was linking Bowers to them.
That's a tight end, though.
Yeah.
There's no other tight end to take now. So, Dallas Turner's off the board. I think they would take – I think they almost have to take a defensive player who – I think they should take Mitchell here, the corner. Unless they take the Florida State defensive end and get another rusher. There could be a play. Yeah, there could be a play there. To me, that seems like the most value.
They've done a lot of work on their offensive line.
We're clapping in Philadelphia. We beat them. We won.
10-9-8 76er.
Oh, I can tell you right now. I'll tell you this right now. Great win for the 76ers. Nice win. Everybody's happy. Kelly Oubre's happy after his car accident, his Lamborghini, all safe. No problem. We're doing good. But I'll tell you this right now. I'm going to the window, and I'm going to bet the Knicks on Saturday.
Knicks money line or with the points?
I'll take the money line, whatever the best deal
Michael's
is.
a proponent of the zigzag theory.
Yeah.
He's been talking about that for years.
No, I'm a proponent of I know the 76ers.
I think it's the fade and beat
I know
theory.
the 76ers. I know they're like the fat guy at the buffet. Like once they're full, they're not going back up.
They're fat and happy after that win tonight, right?
It's good for them. They got a W. It is going to be Jared Verse to the Los Angeles Rams. So the edge rusher out of Florida State on that really good Florida State defense is going to the Los Angeles Rams. They're going to continue to shore up that front, which Byron Young, who they drafted last year, Kobe Turner, who they had really good rookies. Now you're adding another young body out there.
I mean, it makes sense. Look, the way this like I talked to somebody in Seattle. They're like, why did Murphy make it to us? And is he too like? They're like wondering like, how do we get so lucky? You got lucky because you got a lot of stupid people picking. I mean, Chicago needs a 3 technique. Like Matt Eberflus is a defensive coach. How many more receivers are we going to play? Like, I don't get it. You got a rookie quarterback. You're going to run the ball. How much are you going to be in 11? Here's a question I want to ask you. You just drafted Odunze in the first round, okay? How much 11%? Are you going to be a completely 11 team the whole game?
It seems like it.
Good luck. Good luck with that.
So going back with the Bears, what he's talking about with Rome Odunze, the pick at number 9, the fans are going to love that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I said fans love it when you pick wide receivers and offensive players in the top 10 like that. But I think it's a idiotic pick because you got Byron Murphy sitting there, a 300-pound run stopper. You plug on the defensive line, gets a receiver in the second round. So what the Bears did is going to be a big hit with the media and the fans in Chicago.
Get an A. They'll get an A. They'll get an A.
Oh, yeah, they get an A for their draft class, but I don't think they optimized what they could have with those 2 top 10 picks. I just don't like taking wide receivers in the top 10 when we just rattle off the names of a bunch of elite wide receivers in the league who have been drafted in the second round or later.
Well, that's what I'm curious is if it's ever going to trickle into, because we talked about the running back market. Everyone says you can find a running back at any round. They can all be productive. There's so many good receivers, and like with the 7-on-7 and all these camps, it feels like passing games are so sophisticated now, even at the high school level, to where in every class we see all these receivers that are able to produce, if not their first year, at least in their second year. Are we ever going to get to a point where teams are like, hey, let's hold off on taking a guy. Let's wait till round 2 or round 3 because we can find someone that can be productive in that round.
I think you're really kind of overestimating the art of team building. I think Matt and I would be called old school when the game. Look, it's so funny. We have such amnesia in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs won with defense. They won because they decided to trade Tyreek Hill. They didn't want to pay him. Right. They won with
2 Super Bowls,
and they've won 2 Super Bowls with a receiving core that's not good. Let's face it. I mean, I know Danny O thinks Kadarius Toney's a hit at receiver. Okay, good luck, Danny O, with that one, right? I mean, they have no real receivers. Okay, and they won Kelsey's still a good player, but he's not a dominant player. So the reality of it is, but they won with their defense. They won because Chris Jones can rush. They won because they got outside pressure. They won because Snead can be a cover corner. They won because they shifted the dynamics of their team from trying to outscore everybody to trying to win the game. And that's the problem. I think the Raiders, look, Penix is a good player. We're criticizing Atlanta because they're picking a luxury item. I'm going to criticize the Raiders for a luxury item. Bowers is a really good player, right? But you got Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell and no offensive line. Like, how is this working out for you? Like, what are you blocking?
Last year, the Raiders drafted Matthew Mayer.
Right there, Michael Mayer. Who's a nice player?
Yeah, Michael Mayer from Notre Dame.
Right.
Nice tight end. I like that pick. You're taking tight ends in back-to-back drafts?
In back-to-back drafts in the top 50 players? Yeah. I mean, and then one's a F, so you're going to play. So now you're married to being a 12 team. You're going to be a 12 team the whole game. So that means you're going to have to run the ball out of 12 personnel. That means you got to be physical up front. You don't have Josh Jacobs anymore. You got, Zaire White running. I don't get it. It's just, to me. And then, what Al Davis was such a big proponent of is, how are we going to win the West? What do we have to do to win the West? Is Brock Bowers going to move the needle to beat Kansas City and win the West? Of course he's not. Maybe if you drafted the corner Mitchell, he could take one of those receivers out of the game. Maybe if you drafted another defensive lineman to go along with their inside, he could take it. One thing about defensive linemen, there's no depth chart on defensive line. You want to rotate them all the way through. So they could have taken Murphy and played Murphy next to Wilkins. If you had Murphy, Wilkins, and Crosby, who's blocking that group?
Nobody.
You wonder too here with the Raiders because I think they should be looking to trade up at this point to get into the first round. You got 2 corners on the board. Terrion Arnold's still there, right?
Yeah, you got Mitchell's still there.
I'm looking at some of my draft bets. I've got Quinyon Mitchell over 13.5. I bet on his draft position. He's still on the board. Jared Verse over 15.5. That went over.
There you go. This is a banner night for you.
You're killing it.
Brock Bowers over 11.5.
You're killing it, Matt.
So a lot of that stuff went pretty well.
Drinks are on the house.
Yeah, this guy's flush with cash.
But don't you think, Michael, right now the Raiders should be looking to move up in the first to get one of those corners? They got to fill it. They're probably going to say, we took the best player available.
They're definitely going to give us that crap. I mean, we love to hear that. But here's what the Raiders need to do. They need to trade up to get an offensive lineman too, Matt. They should try to get Jordan Morgan from UCLA. Yeah. I mean, from Arizona. They need a left tackle badly.
Yeah, we're going to see now that we're into the 20s, these are some of the organizations that are a little bit better run than some of those that we get in the top 10. So I'm assuming we're going to get some. Yeah, we're going to get some better picks now coming up a little bit later. The pick is in for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do we have anything before we head to break on the Steelers?
I have not gotten them yet.
All right, well, we'll figure it out on the other side. Who is going to be the newest member of the Steelers next here on the GM Shuffle?
The 82-game preseason is in the books, and it's finally time for the real season. Don't miss out on any of the NBA playoff action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code VSiN. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/bball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
The SEC may have a new look in 2024 between eliminating divisions and adding Texas and Oklahoma to the conference, but there's a familiar face atop the odds board to win it all. Hi, I'm Stormy Bonantoni with VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The Georgia Bulldogs are a short plus 190 price to get redemption in the title tilt following last year's SEC championship loss to Alabama that cost the Dogs a spot in the CFP. Kirby Smart's team is also a plus 330 favorite to win a third national title in 4 years. Newcomer Texas, who did make the Final Four a year ago, is the second shortest shot at plus 320 to claim their SEC title in the first season. Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss team at 6-1 looks to build on their 11-2 season a year ago, bringing back offensive stars Jackson Dart, Trey Harris, and Caden Priestcorn. It feels wrong to see the Crimson Tide so far down the board at 9-1, but that's the Nick Saban retirement effect. LSU rounds out the short shots at plus 950, but will have to navigate a new chapter without Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Jaden Daniels, who's on to the NFL.
For more, head to VSiN.com.
VSiN is thrilled to introduce a new VSiN.com tailor-made to the evolved needs of today's sports bettors. Our upgraded navigation streamlines your journey, allowing you to swiftly access articles, videos, and podcasts. Whether you're tuning in live or catching up on your favorite shows, everything is just a click away. VSiN.com guarantees a fluid and responsive experience across all devices, ensuring you stay connected wherever you are. We have enhanced tools such as our betting splits and expert picks, and introduce innovative features like parlay and odds calculators, all designed to make you a sharper bettor. Our How to Bet section is perfect for beginners, covering the fundamentals, while seasoned bettors can delve into our advanced betting strategies for the competitive edge you've been looking for. Sign up for free on VSiN.com or become a VSiN Pro subscriber, where you can unlock unlimited access to every tool, expert picks, and insight that make VSiN the sports betting network.
The time of unreliable injury reports and rest days are over. The playoffs are here, and it's the best time to bet the NBA. Throughout the NBA playoffs, VSiN has daily best bets, analytics reports, and series previews all the way through the NBA Finals. You can also watch our 24/7 video stream, access our betting splits, and get picks sent to your inbox every morning so you can get ahead of any late line movement. To get access to everything VSiN has to offer for the NBA playoffs, become a VSiN Pro subscriber at VSiN.com/pro.
Elevate your sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Welcome back. This is the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. The NFL Draft, I mean, it's been a night of curveballs. After it started out a little bit chalky, 1 through 6, it's like, hey, this is looking like all the mock drafts, and boy, were we in for it once we got into the teens. But things have sort of settled in, and the O-linemen have started to hear their names called once again, as the Pittsburgh Steelers, with the 20th overall selection, are taking Washington. He was a tackle at Washington, but it sounds like, Michael, that he's going to maybe kick inside and play guard at the next level. Troy Fashanu is going to the Steelers.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is what the Steelers have been their big problem over the last few years. They haven't been able to get this line fixed. They've worked at it really good. This is 2 years in a row. Broderick Jones last year. Then they come back and make this pick this year. I think it's a really good thing. Look, this Steeler team, you can hate on everything in Atlanta was Arthur Smith's fault. We know that now. We can see that fairly clearly now. But what Arthur Smith can do is run the ball and play action pass, which is what Russell Wilson's going to have to do. So they're going to be, when we know Mike Tomlin's teams are going to be physical. We know that. So I just think, to me, it's a really good, solid pick, and they got the player that they want. The Cowboys are going to need to pick one, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, That's the big thing down in the Metroplex. We're all talking about the offensive line, like 2 starters that they lost, Tyron Smith and Tyler Biadasz. They haven't been able to replace those guys, so I'm even sure they could even play a game if they had to play one tomorrow. So we'll see if they go ahead and address offensive line. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, who never are below 500, and I mean, their win total, I believe, is around that 8.5 range or so, which is, I mean, how many times does he have to go above?
Are you saying Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season?
I'm just saying.
I haven't heard this before.
Really? Is it news to you?
Wow. Are you serious?
But it's, well, the betting market, apparently they haven't heard it because they keep putting them at 8.5. So, hey, let's keep going back to the well until it doesn't work there. But the Steelers showing up the offensive line, which has been an interesting offseason for the Steelers. Starts with them going ahead and signing Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett, kind of throwing the fit, and they trade him to the Eagles. But are you interested in this team, in this AFC North division that's as tough as they come in the NFL?
Somewhat interested. We'll see. I mean, I don't know how the quarterback situation is going to work out with the Steelers, but as far as this pick goes, not surprised here. I had Graham Barton, the center from Duke, going to the Steelers at number 20, but I also had Troy Fashanu from Washington off the board to the Seahawks at number 16. So you knew they were going to go offensive line. I got some interest in the Steelers. We'll go ahead and, I'll probably play that as a wait-and-see thing over the summer. But I know one team I'm not going to be real high on is the Cleveland Browns. In that division, I'm probably not going to be looking to play the Browns over. And Michael, while we're sitting here talking draft, how bad was the Browns trade for Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I know and now he's over.
Historically bad.
Historically bad, and it keeps getting worse. I mean, here he is. He's got a bad shoulder, and he's over in, I don't know what country he was in over there, but he's doing videos from over there, and it's like he's not even rehabbing his shoulder, and you wonder about it. And Alex Van Pelt lost his job because he couldn't get him to play good. So, look, they're all in on this. Yep. They're all in on that. They have no choice.
They're going to be all out.
They're going to be all out on it, too. And again, this is a little bit about what you're worried about. Can he connect to his teammates? Is he kind of a guy that the teammates are buying into? I'm not sure that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, the Cleveland Browns, they don't pick until the second round here in this draft, but it's interesting. We talked about how they've been signing all these quarterbacks. I mean, they got Tyler Huntley, they got Jameis Winston, I believe. It's like they have all these quarterbacks in that room, and it's like you wonder what's going on there in Cleveland, but we'll discuss that throughout the weekend. The pick is in for the Miami Dolphins at 21. There was some talks about the Dolphins falling in love with maybe Xavier Worthy, the speedster out of Texas who broke the combine record of the 4.21. Is that the direction you think they're going in, or are they going somewhere else?
They picked, the last one.
Why would you go that way if you've already got Tyreek Hill?
I mean, I don't. Well,
McDaniel loves speed. I mean, you got A-Chain, you got Hill. We're going to do a 4x1
linemen so badly. I could see them taking a corner here too, though. They need corners. I mean, they lost. They cut Xavier Howard,
yep.
Because he couldn't play. So I could see that being the case.
So the pick is in for the Miami Dolphins. We're waiting to figure out who this selection is. And I think a lot of folks are.
The Eagles will be on the clock next at 22.
Yep. You got 3 offensive linemen out there. Graham Barton from Duke, Jackson Powers Johnson
Miami
from Oregon.
Miami picked Chop Robinson, the defensive tackle, defensive end from Penn
Is that
State.
Right?
Yep.
Look at this.
Chop Robinson. Yeah,
mock draft.
Yeah, there you go. You nailed it. 21,
Chop Robinson. In the mock draft. Chop Robinson
now,
for the Dolphins.
I think this will be Philly should take the. I think Philly.
We're taking a victory lap on VSiN tonight.
No, how lucky was that?
That's pretty good.
Actually, Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle from Oklahoma.
I thought for sure we'd have Brooklyn Pizza here tonight since you're killing it.
It's not too late to call.
Friday night, the pizza's going to be here. You going to leave town?
No, I'm not here then.
Okay.
Well, I guess we'll miss out on the pizza this time. But Chop Robinson, I think from a team-building standpoint, though, because the Miami Dolphins, they lost those 2 edge rushers at the end of last year. Like, Phillips had the Achilles, and then Bradley Chubb, I believe it was an ACL. So you don't know when those guys are going to actually be back for a training camp and the start of this upcoming season. That's sort of a need for this defense that lost Vic Fangio to the Eagles. You start to worry a little bit on that side of the ball. Maybe Chop Robinson kind of helps out in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, they need a rusher because remember, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are coming off of knee injuries, so you got to get that going. And that they're going to have to. One thing about Miami, they can score. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to stop their front seven. Look, you're never going to hear me argue about a team picking somebody in the front seven. I think that's really this Eagle pick. Eagles really have no needs. They have one need really, corner. Back. They need a safety or a corner. Now, a lot of people think they could take the Iowa corner.
Cooper DeJean from Iowa.
They feel like because he's got versatility. That seems to be what I was told today could be the pick. I think it would be Mitchell if Vic Fangio has his way because he could play man-to-man. It shouldn't be the 2 Alabama guys, even though they love Southeast Conference, because, again, Nick Saban didn't play man-to-man there.
Yeah, well, the Eagles, they usually love those Georgia guys. I mean, they got about 17 of them on that team for the Georgia Eagles up there in the city of brotherly love. But I know Quinyon Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo, if you look at a lot of the boards, he's kind of the quote-unquote best available guy. And if they need a corner, why not go there with Mitchell? But I guess it's kind of pick your favorite flavor of ice cream.
Well, Cooper DeJean, the corner from Iowa, is who I mocked the Eagles to at 22 because he can play safety and corner.
Right, that's right. Yeah. That's the guy that I think he could.
Would they ever go offensive line with Jason? I mean, I think they're going to have Juergens kind of kick inside to replace Jason Kelce.
Look, I think they're in. They didn't have to trade up, right? Everybody thought they would trade up to get the corner. Of course, nobody thought that this offensive board, like the Raiders taking the tight end, and I mean, because you got to sit there. If you're sitting there and you're a Philly and you're saying, well, the Raiders got to take a defensive back. There's a potential hit there. You thought maybe Minnesota would, but they didn't expect Dallas Turner to be there. So the kind of board went in the favor of Philly, and now they have the whole board for them in terms of the defensive backfield. There hasn't been a defensive back picked yet. And so there's really nothing left for them to pick on the defensive side. If they went offensive line, I think that board's been fairly cleared out too.
Yeah, Tyler Guyton, the Oklahoma tackle, he's still out there. Morgan from Arizona.
Yeah, but those guys are all kind of graded in the second round. That's why I think they're going to go at the bottom of the first.
Gotcha. So it's the O-line. We talked about how these guys are going to go. 9.5 was the prop. How many? We have 7 of them right now, or 6 that have gone so far, and we're at pick 20 with 6 offensive linemen so far. So we still got some work to do for those of you who went ahead and bet over 9.5 on the offensive line. Dallas is sitting out there. They're probably going to take an offensive lineman if they don't try to trade out of there. But I think the O-line. I think we'll go over that prop number, that 9.5. I think we'll see 10 in these picks. Like we'll get 4 more at least here. So
Cowboys have to take one at number 24.
They do. Yeah. They really do. And the problem
it's a dire situation.
And I think it'll be the Duke kid is what they have to take because they need a center.
Yeah.
They
try to move up.
Well, I mean, who are you going to move up to get here at this point?
Well, like one of the O-linemen, like just to secure and get your guy.
I think they thought that they really thought Chicago was not Chicago. Philly thought that Pittsburgh might take the center, and Pittsburgh went the other direction. So. You're sitting pretty right here if you're Dallas. Philly's not going to take that. I mean, Philly signed a lot of guys and paid their offensive linemen. But Philly loves to draft offensive and defensive linemen in the first round. That's where they believe in, and I think that's right.
Yeah, I
don't think the Cowboys have to move up, Femi, because you got Graham Barton, the center from Duke, and Jackson Powers Johnson, the center from Oregon, both right there. One of those guys is going to fall to the Cowboys. Very similar players. Cowboys can get one of those guys. I don't think you have to move up. Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma, is out there too. So,
what about
they got a clip on Twitter that having the Terry Super Bowl winning GM Fontenot explaining to Arthur Blank why he took. It's unbelievable.
Should we watch that during the break?
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Can you imagine they didn't have him clued in? I mean, you would think. I mean, you just spent You spent $90 million of the man's money. That's another yacht he could have bought.
Or Arthur Blank just watching the drive and said, wait, we did what? we did what with this pick?
I mean, see, this is the problem with you talking about ownership. Like, if you had an owner that really understood it, they would ask really good questions, okay? So, like, if you were my personnel director, Femi, and you came to me and said, I want to draft Michael Penix at 8, and I would say, well, why did we sign Kirk Cousins? How do you tell me how this plays out? When do you visualize Penix playing? Year 4? We've signed him to a 3-year contract. The biggest beef about the Kirk Cousins contract was that he wanted a 3rd year guaranteed, which we did, which we guaranteed him. So now you want me to wait 3 years for Michael Penix when he's 27 to play? Like, how are we having this conversation? Like, could you imagine me walking into Al Davis after I spent $90 million of his hard-earned dollars and telling him we're now going to draft another quarterback? Are you kidding me? I mean, look, I'm all for from the Michael Jordan draft, I'm all for taking the best player. You can't make that mistake. But the reality of it is in football, you can't have 2 quarterbacks.
It just feels like there was a breakdown somewhere like along this evaluation process prior to free agency even starting. Because if you love Penix this much, like you said, you shouldn't have gone out there and given Kirk Cousins all that money. All right, we'll wrap things up on the other side. This is the GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. It's been a fun one. We'll close it out strong coming up next.
If you didn't catch Follow the Money, here's what you missed.
It's crazy how things have turned, specifically in this Suns T-Wolves series. If you go back to the final Sunday of the regular season, what is it now, a week and a half ago? Suns went to Minnesota, the 1 seed was on the line, and they barbecued the Wolves. in Minneapolis.
And talk trash.
Oh, the whole time. And they destroyed them the entire game. Wolves were never really even in that. Well, now 2 games deep into this best-of-7 series, the Wolves are up 2-0, and they have been easily the better side here. This, on paper, I'm not going to call it over with because the Suns can go back and win the next 2 games at home. But the way this is flipped since that final game of the regular season, this looks like a total mismatch when you're watching the games.
Well, it's the number 1 defense in the league for a reason, and they are suffocating Phoenix, and the job they're doing defensively is A+.
Follow the money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Can anyone knock the Chiefs off the AFC pedestal? Hi, I'm Stormy Bonantoni with VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Let's get into it because the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs are plus 300 to three-peat in the conference. Makes sense with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones all running it back. But while KC stunned the top-seeded Ravens this past January at plus 475, Baltimore and 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson could be back with a vengeance, adding former rushing leader Derrick Henry to the fold. The Bills' odds lengthened to 7-1 following the departure of Stephon Diggs to Houston. Meanwhile, those Texans odds shifted from 13-1 to plus 850 after adding Diggs and Danielle Hunter as part of a very active free agency period. Cincinnati at 7-1 is also expected to be a worthy contender with a healthy Joe Burrow. Without their star QB, the Bengals failed to make the playoffs this past year, but had back-to-back appearances in the conference title game in 2021 and 22. The Jets and Dolphins are 11-1, followed by the Chargers 17-1 and Jags 20-1.
For more, head to VSiN.com.
VSiN is thrilled to introduce a new VSiN.com tailor-made to the evolved needs of today's sports bettors. Our upgraded navigation streamlines your journey, allowing you to swiftly access articles, videos, and podcasts. Whether you're tuning in live or catching up on your favorite shows, everything is just a click away. VSiN.com guarantees a fluid and responsive experience across all devices, ensuring you stay connected wherever you are. We have enhanced tools such as our betting splits and expert picks, and introduce innovative features like parlay and odds calculators, all designed to make you a sharper bettor. Our How to Bet section is perfect for beginners, covering the fundamentals, while seasoned bettors can delve into our advanced betting strategies for the competitive edge you've been looking for. Sign up for free on VSiN.com or become a VSiN Pro subscriber, where you can unlock unlimited access to every tool, expert picks, and insight that make VSiN the sports betting network.
This isn't your typical betting show. This is the Sports Gambling Podcast live on VSiN.
Forget what you know.
Done.
Because we're rewriting the playbook.
I'm Sean Second the Money Green with my partner in picks, Ryan Real Money Kramer. And every Friday night, we're taking over VSiN, giving our best bets. And of course, talking a ton of trash on everyone that costs us money.
We don't follow trends, we set them.
Bit of a stretch, but we are the Sports Gambling Podcast live here every Friday night, 9 p.m. East, 6 p.m. Pacific on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN senior MLB analyst Adam Burke. Let's face it, between bad managers and umpires like Angel Hernandez, betting on baseball can be brutal. But my daily article is here to help. Every morning, I go through each MLB matchup and give you my best bets of the day. I analyze pitching matchups, study analytics, look at lineups, and even weather reports, all to find value on the baseball slate. My daily article is only available to VSiN Pro subscribers. To become a subscriber, head to VSiN.com/pro today.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Here is Femi Abebefe.
Welcome back. Unfortunately, this is going to be our final segment. This has been too much fun.
You got to carry the boat. You got to carry it all the way through, Matty.
You and Wes, VSiN tonight, you guys are going to carry us through. And it'll still be here on the DraftKings Network, so make sure you guys are staying with us here on the DraftKings Network and on VSiN. But the Philadelphia Eagles selection is in. And, Michael, this is one that you nailed earlier on. I think it was a couple weeks ago or so. We were talking about the Eagles.
He's the best corner that can play man-to-man in this draft. I mean, you know, he has the speed. He fits perfectly what Vic Fangio wants to do. And look, you can't live with Bradbury in the back end. You can't live with Slay in the back end. Those guys can't really. So they're going to need him to play. And what Howie has done with his team, he's filled all the needs on his team. He's got great depth. And so this was the one hole he had, and he has all these extra picks that I thought he was going to use it to trade up to make sure he got them. And look, because of the way this league has kind of gone and the lack of respect for defensive players, he sits at 22 and gets a guy he probably would have picked at 13.
That's a really good pick for the Eagles. I thought it might be Cooper DeJean, the corner and safety from Iowa, but you got to like Quinyon Mitchell. By the way, I think he might be the only player from a non-Power 5 team drafted in the first round tonight out of Toledo. I also go back to the 2020 draft, and Michael, this still bothers me. I know Howie Roseman gets a lot of credit for being a genius and acing the draft. But in 2020, I had the Eagles taking Justin Jefferson at number 21, and I had Jefferson on a bet to go number 21 to the Eagles. And they took Jalen Reagor 21, and the Vikings took Justin Jefferson number 22.
The fifth receiver in the draft. He was the fifth receiver picked in that draft. But we also have
one
Danny
that Howie Roseman screwed up.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, but it's amazing they've been able to bury that underneath the carpet. It's a little bit like, I mean, this is a little bit like
over Justin Jefferson?
I mean, look, it's
as a Cowboys fan, I'm glad they made that selection.
Jefferson. Everybody in Philly was screaming for it. Everybody thought he was going to pick Justin Jefferson. They blamed Doug Peterson for the pick. He carries that with him. They almost want to tear down his statue because of the pick, because of that in Philadelphia.
Is it bigger than that Iverson statue?
Could they make that any smaller? Did they run out of money on that deal? I was wondering, what the hell's going on here? Can we make it a little? I know he's a diminutive guy, but did we have to make it like pint size? Did we run out of funds?
That was embarrassing.
It really was. Did Josh Harris not have any money? Gave it all to the Washington Commanders? He couldn't fund this.
Iverson statue is as big as this mic stand right here.
But one of the things I think what you do is. Look, the draft is an exact science, and rigor obviously didn't turn out, but they were able to hit on some other picks, and it's made it worthwhile. So, for me, this is a good pick. They needed this player, and I think ultimately they need to revamp their secondary completely. And I don't know what he's going to do with all these picks because not all of them can make his team.
Yeah, and I think the point that we really need to drive home is like the Eagles' defense at the end of last year was a sieve. The corners could not run. It was just horrendous. And the way they just got embarrassed in that playoff game against the Buccaneers, this is them addressing that and saying, hey, we got to get better if we want to go ahead and ultimately win the division again in the NFC East.
You think that Eagles' defense was a problem? I mean, giving up a 90-yard touchdown drive to the Seahawks at the end of the game? With Matt Patricia calling the plays?
I mean, it was bad. It was bad all year. And look, they fired – and their offense wasn't much better, Matt. I mean, look, the offense wasn't very good, and they've done a lot. I mean, they put their money – I mean, they put a lot of money into the offense. They just redid A.J. Brown. Everybody's happy in Philly. Everybody got money. Now, I'm never really happy when everybody gets money because there's no sense of urgency. Fear does the work of reason. And so when everybody's fat, happy, and content – fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. And, they're happy, but they're really good. And they got to get Hurts to play better. They got to get Hurts to play better.
Hurts was playing better before he got paid.
Yep, exactly right.
Sure.
Maybe they needed to pay AJ because who knows if they don't pay AJ Brown, maybe that becomes a problem heading into training camp, like him wanting his money. You want to avoid those holdouts. So
I don't know how you deal with that as a GM. I get so tired of wide receivers complaining about wanting to be paid.
Yeah,
and that's why I think the Bills probably did the right thing by getting rid of Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, Jacksonville just took another receiver. They took Brian Thomas.
Jacksonville took Brian Thomas?
I mean, at some point, when are you going to realize that maybe Lawrence needs to throw the ball down the field? Now this Thomas kid has got some medical concerns to him, and he's very inconsistent with his production. Very inconsistent with his production. So this is one of those picks where it has the ability to look good, but it also has the ability to wonder, where is this guy? The competitive fire is something that most people worry about when it comes to Thomas. And look, he traded away from a corner, which I think he needed. He could have taken Mitchell. He needed a corner, but they went ahead and took another receiver.
So this is where I think the Raiders should have been trading up to probably look to take a corner with Terrion Arnold from Alabama out there. I mean, the Raiders they've got to do something here. I did have Brian Thomas to the Jaguars in my mock draft, but at 17. And I bet the Jaguars to have an offensive player with their first pick at +1. Let's see, what is that? +185. And I know everybody thought they were going to take a corner, but part of my reasoning was the Jaguars don't do what they're supposed to do, so they're probably going to screw up and take a wide receiver.
And that's what they did.
And that's what they did.
What they did. I mean, and it makes no sense. I mean, you got all this money in receiver. Again, how are we getting them on the field? How are we getting them all on the field? Tell me the role they're going to play. Tell me, one of the things when you turn the card in, you want to know how many plays this player is going to play. Right? Okay, when you turn Mitchell's card in your Philadelphia, you're saying there's a good chance he beats Bradbury out. because he can't play man-to-man. He's probably going to play 1,000. He's going to be a 4-down player. He's going to play in the kicking game. We're going to get a bunch of plays out of him in the kicking game. We're going to get a bunch of plays out of him when we're in sub. So you're getting a lot of plays out of him. And so you're getting that. So when you draft Odunze in the 8th, 9th pick overall, and you turn down Murphy, who's going to play 1,200 plays on defense, to take Odunze, who's going to play how many plays in 11 personnel? You got to be in 11. Keenan Allen ain't coming off the field when they go to 12, right? So how many plays are you getting out of them? At some point, when does that justify it? Like, it's not a 7-on-7 game. It's just bizarre. They needed a 3 technique.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of what the Seahawks did last year, taking Smith and Jigba, to where it's like you have Metcalf, you have Lockett, and it's like Smith and Jigba didn't really start to come on until like the second half of the season. It's like, okay, like is he going to play? I know he dealt with some injuries as well throughout training camp and stuff, but it just felt like a little bit of overkill. Like, hey, you needed some help on the offensive line, you needed some help on the defensive line, and in some other spots, like the defense was a disaster last year, which is why Pete Carroll's not the coach anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just sometimes it becomes overkill. But these teams can't help themselves.
They can't. They really. I mean,
the receivers they're always appealing.
You know what? It's been the trend of everything. I mean, if you take a receiver, you're guaranteed to get an A, even if you take a bad one. I mean, people are pushing to take the 160-pound, 5-pound kid from Texas in the first round because he's fast. He's a gadget player. When he's on the field, the whole sideline's screaming, watch the vertical route, watch the sub-screen. Like, nobody's worried about him running an in-cut. The quarterback can't even see him, right? He's a midget. The quarterback can't see him. Right, and you don't realize how hard it is to throw the ball to it.
Fit in Arizona with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you don't realize how hard it is to throw the ball vertically down the field to a guy. What does a quarterback, when a guy's running vertically down the field and somebody has him covered up, you can't see that he's open. So, like, all this talk, well, we're going to draft the word. How many plays is he going to play? He's a gadget player. That's why you have a grading system. There's no way in any good grading system that you could grade him high enough to be in the first. He's a 3rd-round pick. He's a gadget. But somebody will take him, I'm sure.
The Jacksonville Jaguars turned the card in. It's Brian Thomas Jr., as we've discussed,
Cowboys
the LSU receiver. The Dallas Cowboys are on the clock at 24.
All in.
Offensive line? It has to be offensive line.
It's got to be offensive line. Look, the Cowboys, I think, Matt, you can disagree. I think the Cowboys I thought they overachieved last year. I don't think they're as talented as people think they are.
I was betting against the Cowboys a lot and losing because
that offensive line. That offensive line was bad. And Terrence Steele's no Lockett right tackle now. When they go on the road, one of the reasons their problem is on the road is they can't block. That's what happened in the Miami. They struggle to protect on the road. So
Philly game too. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, look, they had the 1st and goal at the 7, and Steele gives up the sack.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the Dallas Cowboys do. I'm not sure if the pick will be in before we sign off here. We got about 90 seconds left. But in the meantime, final thoughts, Michael, from what we've seen so far in the draft. We've seen 23 selections. We'll obviously give our more recap, our final thoughts on the GM Shuffle podcast tomorrow. So special edition coming out for you guys on Friday to recap all these 32 picks. But final thoughts from the night, Michael.
Michael's giving A's to a lot of teams.
He's
oh, yeah, I'm giving A's to
his mock gets an A. He had the 6 QBs.
I mean, look, I think this is, we'll digest it all. I can't wait to read and how they justify that. We'll see what happens when the Super Bowl winning GM Fontenot comes out and addresses the team. Kaiser Sose McKay, you won't find him anywhere. You won't find him. Kaiser Sose McKay, you won't find him. I'm not involved anymore, but I'll come in and save the day. I mean, what a franchise. Could you imagine being a Falcon fan? I mean, seriously.
I'm glad I'm not. Although I guess I'm a Cowboys fan. They haven't won anything worthwhile in almost 20-something years. Is the pick in?
No, not yet.
Okay, it's not in. Matt, you will be with Wes Reynolds to close out the draft coverage here on
3 hours.
tonight.
I love the NFL draft. I actually really like tomorrow, too. And the next 2 days. I'll watch pretty much every pick the next 2 days. Big fan. I wish there was more to bet on in the next 2 days of the draft. Yeah.
Put some markets up for day 2. Who's going to be the 33rd overall pick?
DraftKings might have some stuff up for day 2. Yeah.
We'll get some of those teams that didn't have first-round picks back into the fold. But that does it for us here on this GM Shuffle NFL Draft Special. For Michael Lombardi, for Matt Youmans, for Tim Murray, for our producer Elliot Bowman, and the entire crew behind the glass, I'm Femi Abebefe saying so long. Stick around at the top of the hour. VSiN tonight. Matt Youmans, Wes Reynolds coming up next.
The 82-game preseason is in the books, and it's finally time for the real season. Don't miss out on any of the NBA playoff action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.